Chapter 831. Zhang Feng's poisonous chicken soup. It directly poisoned everyone present. However, Zhang Feng still did not give up. If he did not persuade these people at this time and make them feel comfortable, he would have to do it. In the future, these people would have to stand up from time to time and pull him back. Zhang Feng could not help but say again, "Actually, I didn't want to do all this. You don't know, but Li Gan knows. I was originally staying in my small tavern and idling away my days peacefully. But it's all because of that Lao Li. He urged me to become an official all day long. I didn't become an official. Later on, listen to what he said, I need to take the imperial examinations. Only the imperial examinations can lead to an official career. I, Zhang Feng, am so handsome, so cute, so resourceful. Even Zhuge Kongming has to call me master. Why would I need these things? This is nothing. I'll take the examinations. I heard from Lao Li that the emperor said that it was just a formality. But this Lao Li is trying to persuade me to open an academy. This, if it's opened, then so be it. Just as I was about to show off my skills, why are there so many obstructions? Zhang Feng had not been so happy to show off in a long time. While beating down bitter water, he also scolded the few of them. Moreover, he didn't even use a single vulgar word. How could these people be a match for Zhang Feng? Compared to the people of this era, the people of this era did not know how to lie. It could be said that they had not learned how to lie in a roundabout way like Zhang Feng. Therefore, Zhang Feng succeeded at this time. He successfully forced his poisonous chicken soup of the 21st century down their throats. He successfully made the four great Confucians drunk. At this time, Zhang Feng seemed to be a little unsatisfied. He once again told them about the improvements and the innovative idea of the great harmony of the world. Involuntarily, these people instantly entered a state of confusion and could not extricate themselves. However, when Zhang Feng led the topic to Shiva in a roundabout way, Yu Shinan and the others came to their senses. That's not right. Kid, don't try to bewitch us. By the way, what do you mean by the great harmony of the world? Stop quarreling. Old man wants to know what the great harmony of the world means. Ouyang Sun waved his hand and shouted loudly, causing everyone to quieten down. He looked at Zhang Feng with an expression that seemed to say that if Zhang Feng didn't explain himself, he wouldn't let this matter rest. Zhang Feng didn't expect that the old man would still be able to understand the crux of the matter. He could not help sighing and said, the so-called great harmony of the world means, for example, now you want to eat a kind of food from the western region, such as the fruit of the western region. This is basically impossible now. But if I tell you that you only need to tell me, there will be dozens of exquisite specialties of the western region in front of you in an instant, and it won't cost much. Will you believe it? For example, now you are in Chang'an City. If you want to eat food from all over the world, there will be people delivering it to you in an instant. Even if you want to travel around the world, you can basically go to the place you want to go. This is the great harmony of the world. To put it in layman's terms, the great harmony of the world is the Tang dynasty. It has become a situation where everyone knows that when they see a Tang, they will make way for you with great respect and let you pass. This is the great harmony of the world. In fact, Zhang Feng did not say it correctly. To be honest, he really did not know what the great harmony of the world was. He could only give a general idea. Anyway, the general idea was enough. These people could not understand. Sure enough. Zhang Feng's words once again made Ouyang Sun fall into a long contemplation for a long time. Yu Shinan took a deep breath and said with a strange look, boy, in the end, you just want to say that you want to accept Shiwa? Well, more or less. Only by letting more people understand the culture and language of the Tang dynasty, the influence of the Tang dynasty will be more far-reaching. This is a way to have the best of both worlds. Although what you see now is that they have secretly learned the things of the Tang dynasty, their roots are still in our hands. Think about it. 10 years later, all the vassal states around the Tang dynasty will be proud of the Tang dynasty's language, culture, customs, and clothes. Do you think they have secretly learned from us, or what? Silence. Dead silence. Everyone understood. He said a lot. This was the most important part of this sentence. It was just that they could not imagine a bearded Kunlun slave speaking fluent Guanzhong language and wearing the clothes of the Tang dynasty. What was this? What was this? Zhang Feng was right. The goal of these people in their lives was to maximize the spread of what they had learned, so that their ideas could spread. And to what extent did they achieve in hundreds of years? Although Zhang Feng's approach seemed a little exaggerated, if it was really so, wouldn't it be, at this time? The happiest and most excited person was Li Qingxian. His eyes were full of stars as he looked at Zhang Feng. With a voice that only he could hear, he kept repeating this sentence. Mine, mine, it's all mine. Chapter 832. Although the old man doesn't know what you want to do, the old man wants to see what you'll do in 3 years. Sun Simiao touched his beard and lit a cigarette with trembling hands. He took a puff and said with a smile, I know why you asked me to come up the mountain. It's not about the pig, nor is it about this pot of nutritious porridge. You want me to teach you my medical skills on the mountain, right? Hearing this, Zhang Feng was about to say something. Sun Simiao quickly stopped him. Don't say anything. If you continue, I'll be so excited that I'll sell myself. You're very bad. Let me say it. Sun Simiao sighed. With his hands behind his back and a cigarette in his mouth, he looked at the group of old fellows who were in deep thought and said, Actually, your medical book is somewhat against common sense. Even if I study it in my lifetime, I won't be able to comprehend it in a short time. So, when you gave me the medical book, you already had a plan, right? Zhang Feng saw that his plan was seen through and laughed shamelessly. I didn't expect that even this couldn't escape Dr. Sun's eyes. I'm too stupid. You're very cunning. Sun Simiao scolded angrily. The old man has always been upright, but he has been led astray by you. From not having a good appetite to not being able to drink and smoke. If you leave now, the old man won't be able to eat anything else. Forget it, you don't have to ask the old man. I'll stay, but you must remember one thing. As long as I need it, no matter what you're doing, you must teach me, such as experimenting on mice. Zhang Feng saw this and almost hugged Sun Simiao and kissed him. Okay, as long as you need it, even if it's growing flesh and bones, I can teach it to you. You, when will you stop bragging? Maybe you'll be a first-class official by now. Sun Simiao was speechless and stared at Zhang Feng. He naturally didn't believe in growing flesh and bones. How could there be such a magical thing in this world? Alright, let's talk about the kid outside first. After Sun Simiao walked around twice, he looked at Li Qingxian and said, You mean to say that your father agreed to this matter? After Li Qingxian nodded, Sun Simiao lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Then he patted Yu Shinan and the others on the shoulder and said, Old friends, the matter of whether we accept Shiva or not has already been decided. The few of them were stunned upon hearing this. Sun Simiao repeated, Li Gan's father. Sun Simiao emphasized the word father, and then continued, if he didn't agree, would the Li family servants at the foot of the mountain let him go up the mountain? You guys are also digging your own horns. Hearing this, they all nodded. Only then did he come to a realization. In his haste, he had neglected such an important matter. Without the emperor's permission, not to mention this kid, even one of them would not be able to go up the mountain from the side of the Chang and military camp. This was all arranged by the emperor. He wanted to see if Zhang Feng would accept it or not. Thinking of this, the few of them sighed deeply. Rubbing their aching foreheads, they gathered together to discuss for a while. Yu Shinan said, Fengzi, since this matter is decided by you, old man and the others won't say anything. But what you just said, Li Gan, after this matter, wait for me to finish recording it in a book and keep it in the academy's library. Li Qingxian was dumbfounded. Why was it always him? Zhang Feng had said so much, how could he remember? But since Yu Shinan had spoken, he really did not dare to say anything. He could only say gloomily, this student understands. Yes, yes. Hearing this, Yu Shinan and the others nodded in satisfaction and said, "You can enter the academy, but you can't break the rules. You can't run away from being a slave. Boy, what do you think?" In the end, Yu Shinan looked deeply at Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng also knew that this might be the biggest compromise, but this was not a matter of one's word. He had to ask for the other party's opinion. "I understand, but Shiva is the crown prince after all. I think we should let him make the decision. What do you think?" What a joke. Shiva was a prince. If news of this spread, the Jinla king would be furious. The Jinla royal family would fight Zhang Feng to the death. Zhang Feng did not care whether they agreed or not. He walked straight out of the door and waved at Shiva, who was squatting at the side with absent-minded eyes. After a long while, Shiva finally reacted. After following Zhang Feng into the room, Yu Shinan repeated the matter to Shiva and asked, "Crown Prince Shiva, this is the law of the Tang dynasty. As the crown prince, you should know this, so your decision is." Shiva was very excited. In fact, he had known about this for a long time. However, ever since he knew that Zhang Feng's son had opened an academy here and created so many good things, his mind was filled with Zhang Feng. He was even willing to be a slave. The main thing was that he could learn something that would allow the people of Jinla to not have a meteoric rise, but at least they would not be bullied by others. At this moment, when he heard Yu Shinan's words, Shiva knelt on the ground with a thud. Student Shiva greets the masters. Yu Shinan and the others were naturally not interested in taking in such a slave. They pointed at Zhang Feng, then rubbed their heads and left. Zhang Feng looked at Shiva and said, "Don't take it to heart. This is only in name. Only then can you stay on the mountain. So, we will do what we are supposed to do. Come, Li Gone. Give me a cigarette. What are you waiting for?" "No. Teacher, since you have taken me as your disciple and servant, then I, Shiva, will naturally be your servant for life." Chapter 833. Finally, this matter was settled. Zhang Feng's mood was very good at this moment. He found Zhu Zi and asked him to bring the smoked meat that had just come out of the pot, as well as a table of good dishes to entertain this rich man. Under Li Qingxian's incredulous gaze, he took out a jar of white wine from his bedroom. "Feng Zi, tell your brother the truth. How much wine do you have left?" Li Qingxian cracked. He stared with a pair of bull eyes and asked. Zhang Feng ignored him and said indifferently, "No more, no more. This is the last jar. I left this for Brother Shiva." "Oh right, why are you standing here? If you have nothing to do, go out and play." Li Qingxian was very angry. But with Shiva here, he did not dare to beat up Zhang Feng. He could only angrily slam the door and leave. "When there is time, Lao Tzu will definitely tear down your rotten wooden house. This prince wants to see how much wine you have hidden here." Zhang Feng did not care about this. Now that he finally met a rich man in this period of time, how could he not grab onto his thigh? He laughed and poured a cup of wine for Shiva, then said, "Since we parted last time, we haven't seen each other for 3 months, right? It has been 3 months. I didn't expect so many things to happen in these 3 months. In the blink of an eye, you, a guy from the marketplace, actually became the dean. And I, sigh." Shiva drank 3 cups of wine and could not help but feel a little dizzy. When he thought of the things that happened in these 3 months, he could not help but feel sad. Creak. When the two were drinking cup after cup of wine, Li Qingxian pushed open the door with a strange expression. He looked at Zhang Feng and said, "Feng Zi, an important person is here. Shiva, do you want to leave?" "Leave what?" "Shiva is now our brother, and also your brother. When have you seen me chasing you away when I have guests?" Li Qingxian's mouth twitched. "Fine, forget it. You're on your own. I have something to do, so I'll go down the mountain first." While talking, Li Qingxian immediately slipped away like there was oil on the soles of his feet. As he walked, he did not forget to say, "Oh right, Iron Bull and the others asked me to tell you that they have also gone to Chang and to look at the white paper business. Who was it that had come? To be able to frighten these masters to this extent? Zhang Feng didn't mind. He continued to eat and drink with Shiva. When Zhang Feng poured a glass of wine for Shiva and gestured for him to drink, he noticed that Shiva was looking at the door in a daze. I say, Shiva, what are you looking at? What's outside the door? Who are you? Before Zhang Feng could finish his sentence, he followed Shiva's gaze and looked at the door. The next moment, Zhang Feng couldn't help but be stunned. He asked an idiotic question. At the door. Out of nowhere, a woman wearing a white strapless dress and a fiery red gauze dress had appeared. The woman was very beautiful and charming. The kind that was seductive to the bone. Zhang Feng thought that he had seen many beautiful women. Whether it was the famous female lead of the action movies in the future or something else, he had seen them all. He had even met the #1 beauty in Chang and Jingshu when he came to the Tang dynasty. And that inexplicable fiancé, Zhang Yuyao. Both of them were top beauties, but, at this moment, compared to this woman, there was nothing left of them. The woman's eyes were very big, and the corners of her phoenix eyes were slightly upturned. She had a charm that could devour one's soul. Even Zhang Feng, who had seen many beautiful women, couldn't help but feel a little overwhelmed. Damn, is this a demon? Dodgy? After looking at the woman for 10 seconds, Zhang Feng finally came back to his senses with a gasp. The woman at the door looked at Zhang Feng with a little surprise. Then, she bowed and said, "Can I go in and have a drink?" "Yes. Yes." Oh my God. This voice. Zhang Feng instantly felt that the blood in his body was boiling. But soon, Zhang Feng knocked into the oil lamp used to light cigarettes. Only then did he come back to his senses. He coughed and stared at Shiva, who was drooling, and said, "Get out. If you have nothing to do, find something to do." After hurriedly chasing Shiva out, Zhang Feng then welcomed the woman in. When the two of them stood together, Zhang Feng was once again stunned. He was 1.8 meters tall, but there were no high heels in this era. This strange woman was actually the same height as him. Zhang Feng took a deep look at the woman's proud place. Then, he obediently retracted his gaze. He poured a glass of wine for the woman and asked, "May I know why you are here?" The moment the question came out, Zhang Feng wanted to slap himself. What an idiotic question. What was wrong with him today? How could he ask such a question? And most importantly, Zhang Feng was shocked to find that his brain short-circuited several times when this woman appeared. Zhang Feng couldn't help but be alarmed. If this woman was sent by someone else to harm him, he would have knelt down by now. Zhang Feng's back was already covered in cold sweat. After taking 2 deep breaths, he returned to normal. As long as he didn't look at her eyes, nothing would happen. What was there to be afraid of? Thinking of this, Zhang Feng then cupped his fist and smiled elegantly. "I haven't asked for your name yet. Sorry for being rude." The woman pursed her lips and smiled. Zhang Feng was so scared that he quickly lowered his head and looked at the wine glass. "My surname is Yu. You can call me Yu, Chapter 834. Yu, What kind of immortal would come up with such a name? Well, the name is really appropriate. Just as Zhang Feng was pondering whether this name had appeared in history, a voice suddenly rang out. At the same time, Wuxia Xianxia was also carefully examining her future husband. At first, when she learned about Zhang Feng's talent, she had fantasized about Zhang Feng's appearance. However, the feeling of being past his prime and seeing through the world of mortals in Zhang Feng's poem made Wuxia Xianxia think that Zhang Feng should be an old man with white hair and eyebrows. However, when Yuqi Baolin and his brother brought her here and stood at the door and saw Zhang Feng, Wuxia Xianxia's heart never stopped beating wildly. Zhang Feng was very handsome, very handsome. He was not like those burly men, nor was he like those pedantic Confucian scholars, whose eyes were full of greed when they saw her. If it weren't for the fact that her uncle was the world-famous Yuqi Gong, she would have been defiled by those men. Fortunately, no one dared to challenge the Yuqi family's authority. Zhang Feng was indeed a little obsessed with her eyes at first. Ever since she became a director, there had never been a man who hadn't been mesmerized by her eyes. However, this Zhang Feng was actually able to recover in the short time it took to drink a cup of tea. Clearly, his heart was very pure. At least in Yuqi Yu's opinion, he was very pure and straightforward at this moment, which was the style of a real man. Once again, a good impression of him arose in her heart. Unconsciously, the corners of Yuqi Yu's mouth curled up slightly into a beautiful smile. Don't you see the water of the yellow river coming from the sky? Masterson, Danshio, don't stop drinking when you're about to drink. Prince Zhang's poem really makes people yearn for it. I came here from Jiangnan because of this poem, just to see Prince Zhang's real face. Seeing that Yuqi Yu took the initiative to change the topic, Zhang Feng was a little flustered. After all, he was plagiarizing someone else's poem. He did not know how Li Bai would look at him in the future. But, why care so much? He, it's good that Miss Yu likes it. Oh right, do you smoke? No, drink, let's drink. Zhang Feng's mouth twitched again. Yuqi Yu pursed her lips into a smile. Looking at the evasive Zhang Feng, she teased, could it be that there's something shameful on Yu's face? Why is Prince Zhang unwilling to even look at Yu? Zhang Feng's face darkened. Lao Tzu wanted to see it. But you, isn't this asking for my life? Zhang Feng let out a hollow laugh. Then, he forced himself to look at Yuqi Yu and said, Miss Yu what are you talking about? As he spoke, Zhang Feng stared into Yuqi Yu's eyes for 11 seconds. Then, he hurriedly retracted his gaze. Using the excuse of drinking, he heaved a sigh of relief and said, I was rude. This cup of wine is my apology. As he spoke, Zhang Feng raised his head and downed the wine. He pointed at the dishes on the table and said, I heard that Miss Yu came from Jiangnan? Yes. Yuqi Yu pursed her lips and smiled. If this little girl said that you came here for young master, would young master believe me? He. Zhang Feng let out a hollow laugh. Like hell I'd believe you. But he only dared to say this in his heart. Miss Yu must be joking. What did this little one do to deserve Miss Yu's attention? Just because of young master's 11 poems. Hearing this, Zhang Feng said, those are all trivial things that I made up when I had nothing better to do. He. Yuqi Yu laughed again. She drank alone and said, then, Prince Zhang, do you know that all the scholars and beauties in Jiangnan are rushing to Chang, and just like you As for their purpose, young master naturally knows. Along the way, Yu saw that Prince Zhang had single-handedly turned this originally barren Shao Mountain into such a prosperous place. This is truly a blessing for our Tang dynasty. However, why didn't Prince Zhang continue on the path of poetry? Why did he want to open an academy here to teach and educate people instead? On the way up Shao Mountain, Yuqi Baolin and his two brothers had dragged Qing Chumo and the others to tell Yuqi Yu. They had even dug out what time Zhang Feng went to bed and what size his pants were. All of this had been pulled out from the mouths of Qing Chumo and the others. Especially after learning about paper and the smelting workshop. Yuqi Yu was even more surprised. When she asked again, she saw that Zhang Feng was somewhat absent-minded and felt that it was a bit rude. She couldn't help but purse her lips and smile. Forgive me for my rudeness. I won't disturb you any more today. Yu hopes that Prince Zhang will do me the honor of reciting a poem with you another day. When Zhang Feng heard this, he felt as if he had been pardoned. Miss Yu is too serious. It is this one's fortune to have met such a beautiful person like Miss Yu As long as Miss Yu comes, I, Zhang Feng, will naturally sweep the bed to welcome you. Will you? Yuqi Yu covered her mouth and smiled. Her question stumped Zhang Feng. Yuqi Yu stopped teasing Zhang Feng. She bowed slightly and bid him farewell. However, the moment she turned around, a trace of loneliness flashed through her eyes. In the end, it was because of her seductive eyes. Although Zhang Feng hadn't said anything, she had always felt that there was an unseen abyss between them. However, the loneliness in her eyes only appeared for a moment before disappearing without a trace. When she saw the palanquin appear at the mountain entrance, a smile flashed across her lips. Happiness was to be grasped by oneself, not by charity. A long time after Wuxia Xianxia left, Zhang Feng was still staring at the slowly disappearing palanquin. He went to the kitchen and asked Old He and the others, who were dumbfounded, "Old He, have any of you heard of someone called Yu? But when he thought of this, Zhang Feng thought of another important matter. He asked fiercely, "Who led her up the mountain?" Chapter 835. No one could answer Zhang Feng's question. Because Wuxia Xianxia had just arrived in Chang and yesterday, and then went directly to Wuxia Mansion. Today, she sat in Wuxia Mansion's sedan chair and went up the mountain. However, when Zhang Feng saw the sedan chair at the mountain gate, Zhu Zi said, "Brother Feng Zi, Brother Tai Niu and Brother Yu Lin brought her up the mountain." But it seems that they all know each other, especially Brother Tai Niu. The way he looked at the girl just now was like the way a man looks at a prostitute at the gate of a brothel. Zhang Feng heard this and glared at him, "Don't talk nonsense." Zhu Zi shrunk his neck and said with grievance, "This is the truth. You can ask them. They all saw it. And these guys definitely have bad intentions." After taking the girl up the mountain, they ran away as if they were fleeing for their lives. Fleeing for their lives? But Zhang Feng thought about it and really believed it. Yu's eyes were really not something an ordinary man could bear. He didn't know what kind of reincarnation of a demon she was. He didn't even remember such a person. It was reasonable to say that such a person should be very famous in history. But now, it seemed that there wasn't even a word or two about her. "Brother Feng Zi, you'd better go back first. Look, Miss Zhang and the old scholar are here." When Zhang Feng was breathing and thinking, Zhu Zi's voice surprised Zhang Feng. He looked at the mountain gate again and saw that the sedan chairs had already come up the mountain. He knew the sedan chairs of Chang and University. Although he didn't know the sedan chairs of Zhang Mansion, he really couldn't find a second one in Chang and city like Little Chui's emerald green clothes. Seeing this, Zhang Feng's lungs were about to explode with anger. What the hell were these guys doing? Zhang Feng didn't care about anything else. Looking at the rows of carriages and handcarts, his eyelids twitched, and then he hurried to the mountain gate. When Zhang Feng arrived, the carriage had already stopped in front of Zhang Feng's door. Sedan chairs were not allowed on the mountain, but Zhang Feng's house was only a few hundred steps away from the mountain gate. Moreover, the sedan chair the old scholar was sitting in was from Chang and University. Everyone on the mountain knew that Chang and University was also the property of the dean. Naturally, no one dared to block the way. Not to mention the sedan chair of the Zhang Mansion. What a joke. Even little Miss Zhang's personal maid, had come. What did that mean? That meant that the dean's wife was here as well. They dared to stop anyone, but would they dare to stop the dean's wife? Even if they were given 100 guts, no one would dare to do such a thing. "Old Xiaotsai, why didn't you tell anyone that you were going up the mountain?" When Zhang Feng saw the old elementary scholar get off the carriage from afar, he hurriedly walked over and cupped his fists. The old scholar glanced at Zhang Feng and didn't say anything. Instead, he asked, "What's the matter with that woman who just came down the mountain?" How would Zhang Feng know what was going on? "Well, she's Qing Tinia's relative. I don't know what she does either. She just came to sit for a while and then left." The old scholar looked at Zhang Feng suspiciously, but didn't say anything in the end. He pointed at the carriage behind them. Then, he went straight to Zhang Feng's small wooden house. Zhang Feng was stunned. He looked at Zhang Yuyao's carriage, which didn't move for a long time, and felt helpless. "You said I was lifting the curtain. It was against the rules. What do you think I should do?" Zhang Feng had no choice but to salute the sedan chair. I didn't know that Miss Yuyao and Miss Jingshu would be coming. Zhang Feng didn't go out to meet you. Little Chui-er's small eyes rolled around and looked at the sedan chair with some worry. Then, under her worried eyes, the curtain of the sedan chair was lifted by a slender hand. Needless to say, Zhang Feng knew that this was Jingshu's hand the moment he saw that hand. Zhang Yuyao's hand was fleshy and not so slender. Jingshu greets Prince Zhang. Jingshu lifted the curtain of the sedan chair and bowed. Then, she pulled the red-faced Zhang Yuyao out of the carriage. Miss Yuyao, are you not feeling well? Zhang Feng pretended not to understand and asked, if you're not feeling well, I'll call Dr. Sunday. No. I'm fine, there's no need, Zhang Yuyao hurriedly said, her face turning even redder. The people around them who were watching the show roared with laughter at this time. Zhang Feng was afraid that these people would talk nonsense, so he glared at them. Only then did they disperse in a hubbub. The few of them entered the small wooden house without saying a word. The old scholar sat in front of the table that had not been removed, his face gloomy. Zhang Yuyao could not help but exclaim, tears in her eyes. As for Jingshu, it was only now that she took off her veil. Although her expression was the same, she was staring at the table in a daze. Zhang Feng was a little embarrassed. Well, don't just stand there. Shiwa, quickly call someone to cancel the banquet and change it to another table. Change to what? The old scholar angrily shouted in a low voice, what kind of principal are you? So wasteful and extravagant. Do you want to spread this kind of atmosphere to everyone on the mountain? Zhang Feng was speechless. Sitting was not right, but standing was not right either. Jingshu was still the one who understood the big picture. Mr. Old Self, why, these dishes are basically untouched, which means that young Master Zhang and that girl only sat for a while. Also, look at this cup of wine. Jingshu pointed to the wine cup that Yu had just drunk from and said, there's only a little wine stain at the bottom of the cup, and the dishes are still warm. Don't worry about it. It just so happens that I haven't drunk Prince Zhang's white wine in a long time. Today, I'll borrow Prince Zhang's wine to toast you. Chapter 836. Zhang Feng was so excited that he wanted to hug Jingshu and kiss her. She was too virtuous. If this was the 21st century, try it. If she didn't cry, make a fuss, and threaten to hang herself, you would be secretly happy. How could you ask her to intercede for you? That was something that he didn't even dare to think about. Zhang Feng couldn't help but love the Tang dynasty. It was a man's heaven. The old scholar and Jingshu had known each other for a long time, so he naturally knew what each of them was thinking. Seeing that Jingshu had taken the initiative to help Zhang Feng out of trouble, the old scholar didn't know what else to say. Forget it, forget it. We've been in a hurry all this time. Yuyao and Jingshu were in a hurry to pack up early in the morning. It's already noon and we haven't eaten anything. Let's just put up with it. Hearing this, Zhang Feng hurriedly shouted, Shiva, where the hell have you been? Hurry up and ask the servants to serve the food. Are you trying to starve us to death? Shiva wanted to cry. Earlier, he had chased him out, and now he was yelling at him. Didn't they say that they were brothers? Why did he still treat him like a servant? Nevertheless, Shiva still ran to the kitchen eagerly. Only then did Zhang Feng wipe off the sweat on his forehead. He shouted in his heart, damn it, I won't do this kind of thing in the future. Stealing food, I really can't do it. After turning around, Zhang Feng returned to his original state. After rearranging the cups and chopsticks with the others, he asked, this time we're going up the mountain, let's stay for a few more days. Chang and University should be fine, right? The old scholar drank lightly. The academy is fine, but there's an autumn hunt with the Imperial College. It's an activity organized by the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Appointments. It's going to start in 10 days. This is the first thing we're going to do when we're up the mountain. Our Chang and University still can't be compared with the Imperial College in terms of reputation and heritage. This time, the Imperial College took the initiative to have a friendly match with Chang and University. We can't afford to lose. The old man went to look for a Kuju team, but until now, he hasn't found a foreman who is willing to take our place. Kuju. During the Tang dynasty, it had basically formed an industrial chain. Aristocratic families would basically fund a local foreman who specialized in Kuju. When the foreman received the money, he would recruit people who specialized in Kuju to compete with him, regardless of whether he won or lost. Of course, if he won, the aristocratic family would naturally reward him handsomely. However, there weren't many such academy versus academy competitions. Chang'an University was basically filled with those stubborn people from Chang'an. It would be strange if anyone was willing to come. If something went wrong, he would lose his life. If he kicked a certain stubborn person, he might even lose his life at night. Who would dare to come? The old elementary scholar could not help but worry. Zhang Feng frowned when he heard this. There are only 10 days left? Why did you only say so now? Jingshu saw the situation and said, originally, Zhang Xuan's mansion agreed, but the foreman disappeared yesterday for some reason in Chang'an. So, until now, we haven't found anyone who is willing to fight for us. I heard that the foreman and his men are all dead. Who was it? They were targeting him. Zhang Feng didn't even need to think about it. Let me think about it. Let's not talk about it for now. Isn't it just 10 days? After 10 days, I'll form a team. You can do whatever you need to do. At that time, I'd like to see who is the blind person who wants to harm me. Kuju, this thing. Wasn't it just football? Although Zhang Feng's football level was similar to that of the national football team, it was different in the Tang dynasty. 10 days was a piece of cake for him. The old elementary scholar seemed to have known that Zhang Feng could handle this matter. Hearing this, he didn't say anything and just focused on eating and drinking. After a while, several bowls of fragrant porridge were placed on the table. The old elementary scholar wrapped the porridge with pieces of fat streaky pork and ate and drank, ignoring Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng smiled and said, "Slow down, old elementary scholar. No one is going to fight with you. I still have things to do." As the old scholar ate and drank, he said, "The second thing is about the cigarettes. It's best to let the people of Zhang Mansion handle it for you. After all, they're family, so don't worry about their safety. As for your brothers, you'd better not mess around with them. That woman just now doesn't look like a good person, so don't mess around with her." What could Zhang Feng say? He could only nod like a chicken pecking rice. Seeing this, the old elementary scholar nodded and wiped his mouth. After drinking the wine in the cup in one gulp, he said, "The third thing this time is also the most important thing. I've talked to your father-in-law. You've seen the dozens of big and small carts outside the door, haven't you?" Zhang Feng was a little confused, but he still nodded. The old elementary scholar continued, "Later, you can ask someone to move them into your house. Just now, I heard that your villa at the foot of the mountain is about to be repaired. Tomorrow, the old village chief will send someone to tidy up and move these things in for you. No, you should at least let me know what's in these boxes, right? These are the soft clothes of Yuyao and Jingshu. Shouldn't you put them in someone else's house instead of yours?" Zhang Feng was shocked when he heard this. "Wait, old elementary scholar, wait. What do you mean?" The old elementary scholar seemed to still be immersed in Wuxia Xianxia's anger and ignored Zhang Feng. He pointed at Zhang Yuyao and Jingshu and said, "I've brought them here. You don't have any good skills, but your bad habits are increasing day by day. What did you change to when you made a scene in Swallow Descent Tower? There are so many eyes on this mountain watching. Even if you're not embarrassed, I still want to save some face. It just so happens that Jingshu is a sensible person and will help you settle things outside. Yuyao is meticulous and will wash your clothes and comb your hair every day. Alright, that's all. Old man, I'm leaving." Chapter 837. Zhang Feng was on the verge of breaking down. What kind of show was this? Even if he had made a mistake, shouldn't he at least tell him what he had done wrong? Just because he said no, he threw 2 girls away. Was this appropriate? Was there any justice in this? Zhang Feng hurriedly stopped the old scholar from standing up and asked, "Old scholar, what are you playing at?" "This. You see, I'm so busy that I can't wait to use one day as two. And you see, we don't have anything to do with each other. Do you think it's appropriate for us to live together?" "That's not proper." "You still know it's improper?" The old scholar sat down with a gloomy face. He took a cigarette from Zhang Feng's ear and lit it. He said, "Look at what you've done. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the people on the mountain? Aren't you afraid of being cursed by all the scholars? Now you're the director and a great scholar. You're no longer the carefree person you used to be. Whatever you do, you have to think about the consequences. I won't ask who that girl is, but don't worry. Now you can walk around the mountain and listen. Is this something that a director dares to do? I'm innocent. I'm King innocent. Since when have I been flirting with girls?" "That's right. Even if I flirt, it doesn't matter, right? What's wrong with a talent matching a beauty? And that girl just now, where the hell did she come from?" Zhang Feng felt wronged in his heart. But he couldn't say it out loud. "Old scholar, if I say that I really don't know what's going on with that girl just now, would you believe me?" The old scholar took a puff and glanced at Zhang Feng. "It doesn't matter if I believe you or not, but you're now engaged and you fell in love with Jingshu at first sight. I don't care about that, but how do you expect them to live in Cheng and from now on? Originally, I saw that you were alone on the mountain and were instigated to do bad things by your bad friends, so I was wondering if I should let them come up to accompany you. But today, I see that you're living a very good life. In short, do you want them to stay or not?" It seemed that the old scholar was really angry. Zhang Feng was also a little nervous. After weighing the pros and cons for a long time, he pinched his nose and said, "Then. All right." Seeing Zhang Feng's reluctance, the old scholar didn't bother to say anything more. "I'll go look for Mr. Bosher and the others. I'll come back tomorrow." As he spoke, the old scholar pretended to leave, but when he reached the door, he turned back and said, "You really don't know what happened to that woman?" Zhang Feng shrugged. "Do you think I would have this expression if I knew him?" Hearing this, the old scholar's face turned serious. "I'll check it for you. Don't worry about it for now." As he spoke, the old elementary scholar left with a gloomy expression. What the old scholar hated the most in his life were those greedy and extravagant debauches. He was also an extremely pedantic person. Otherwise, he would not have been able to live in his shackles for as long as 10 years. When he was going up the mountain, he heard the people in Tonghui Lane telling him that there was a seductive woman who came up the mountain to look for Zhang Feng. He couldn't help but be furious. But now that he was sure that Zhang Feng did not know this woman, the old scholar became even more worried and angry. Was someone trying to use a honey trap on him? Zhang Feng's current achievements were a stumbling block in the eyes of many people. Many people wanted his life. He knew this. After all, in the previous dynasty, he saw with his own eyes the tragic story of Emperor Yang of Sui, who was incomparably valiant, but in the end, he fell into the depths of the tragic story of Emperor Yang of Sui. He didn't want to see Zhang Feng follow in his footsteps. Who on earth was targeting Zhang Feng? After the old scholar left, the atmosphere in the room suddenly became extremely awkward. Jingshu hid her hands in her embroidered robe and Zhang Yuyao lowered her head, like a girl who had done something wrong and was waiting to be reprimanded. Zhang Feng's head was about to explode. Behind Zhang Yuyao, Cui, who was dressed in emerald green, squatted on the ground. Her hand reached out from under Zhang Yuyao's armpit, grabbed a plate of braised meat from the table, and ate it like a cow. Other than the sound of Cui, chewing, the room was strangely quiet. Zhang Feng finally couldn't help but cough and ask, "Well, did Uncle Zhang say anything when you came up the mountain this time?" "No. Father asked me to serve my husband, Prince Zhang well." Zhang Feng's head exploded when he heard this. She was really planning to settle down on the mountain. Forcing a marriage to this extent was simply unheard of. Would Lao Tzu run away? Zhang Feng looked at Zhang Yuyao painfully, then looked at Jingshu. Jingshu seemed to have sensed it. Without waiting for Zhang Feng to ask, she said, I didn't have anything to do at the foot of the mountain, so I accompanied Sister Yuyao up the mountain. Sister Yuyao, oh my God. Lao Tzu shouldn't have replied to Zhang Yuyao's letter. Back then, I really shouldn't have gone to Swallow Descent building with those few bastards. Damn it, is this retribution? Is it wrong to be handsome? Chapter 838. Zhang Feng finally managed to escape from the wooden house. He squatted in the kitchen and refused to go out. While smoking, he waited for Ching Chumo and the others. Feng Zi, you can't do this. Although you haven't married them yet, Miss Zhang and Miss Jingshu are still your women. Is it appropriate for you to ignore them like this? Yes, Feng Zi, if you do this, those old things will scold you again. Go back. Under the persuasion of old He and Jing Tufu, Zhang Feng could only return to the study room. He looked around the wooden house. This was the first house he saw when he first entered Shao Mountain. Zhang Feng was reluctant to tear it down. If he wanted to expand it now, it would be too late. There were only 3 rooms in the wooden house. One was Zhang Feng's bedroom. The other was the room of Chintinu and the others. Now that they had slipped away and found a place to live, it was basically Zhang Feng's material warehouse. The last room was Zhang Feng's secret warehouse. There were 3 locks on the door, and it was guarded by Gao Kansas. Now that Gao Kan had slipped away, the house was empty. It was obviously impossible for people to live there. As for Chintinu and the others' house, now it seemed that he could only arrange for the 2 women to live there. As for the villa, it hadn't been painted yet, how could he live there? Besides, even if he painted it, it would take a month to dry it. Otherwise, he didn't want to suffer from rheumatism so early. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng pointed to the room on the right side of the living room and said, Little Chui, after eating, go out and ask old He to find people to move Miss Zhang and the others' things into that room. You can squeeze in there for the time being. Tomorrow, I will find people to hurry up and build a house. Prince Zhang, don't trouble yourself. This place is very good. It's fine as long as we can live here. Zhang Yuyao glanced in the direction of Zhang Feng's finger and hurriedly said. After she finished speaking, she realized that Zhang Feng lived next door. She couldn't help but blush like a red egg. Zhang Feng was bored again. He could only rub his nose embarrassedly and say, Since that's the case, I have some matters to attend to first. You can leave the matters here to that purple-robed youth. Prince Zhang, you can leave if you have something to do. We will take care of the matters here. Jingshu was still so gentle and elegant, but when she walked to the door, Zhang Feng didn't know what to do. Once he went out, they would definitely gossip about him. His head hurt. But on second thought, Zhang Feng instantly figured it out. If the woman wasn't afraid, why would a man like him be afraid? Thinking of this, Zhang Feng was no longer embarrassed. Under Jingshu's surprised gaze, Zhang Feng coughed and said, I just had some inspiration now. I'll go inside and think about a new poem. You guys go ahead. If you have nothing to do, you can go to the mountain. After all, this place can be considered half a home in the future. After Zhang Feng finished speaking, he closed the door. Seeing this, Jingshu couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. How could she not see Zhang Feng's embarrassment? But after all, she was more intelligent. With a little thought, she could understand the meaning behind it. Sister Jingshu, Jingshu patted Zhang Yuyao's hand, indicating that she didn't need to worry. Then, she walked out of Zhang Feng's study with Zhang Yuyao and said, Prince Zhang is busy now. We don't want to disturb him. Zhang Yuyao opened her mouth to say something, but after hesitating for a long time, she didn't say anything. She could only sit at the door with Jingshu and watch the people of Tonghui Square happily fighting to move things for them. At this time, Jingshu recalled what had just happened. At the beginning, she really didn't want to stay. After all, Zhang Feng was more embarrassed. It could be seen from just now. But she couldn't get that woman's voice out of her mind. This was really what the old scholar said. Zhang Feng's excellence was beyond doubt. She was very clear that outstanding people would never lack women around them. But when Zhang Feng turned around, she saw a trace of concern in Zhang Feng's eyes. This was the reason why Jingshu chose to stay. After sitting for a while, Steamed Bun came over with a lot of snacks. Jingshu touched Steamed Bun's head and said, "I heard that Mr. Bo Shi and the others are on the mountain. Let's go and visit them." Hearing this, Zhang Yuyao finally remembered the important matter at hand. She hurriedly rummaged through the chests and cupboards and took out the gifts that she had prepared beforehand. Only then did the four of them slowly walk towards the back of the mountain under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Shiwa was already stunned. No matter if it was the fox-like woman he first saw, or the two now, they were all the best in the world. At least in Jinla, he really couldn't find a woman as beautiful as them. Most importantly, these three women were Zhang Feng's women. This was the most shocking thing for Shiwa. After seeing them leave, Shiwa sighed and looked at Zhang Feng's room. He took out a small book and wrote something on it. Then, his eyes became even more passionate. Is this the attractiveness that the imperial tutor talked about? Brother Zhang is indeed Brother Zhang. If I can stay by his side for a long time, then I can also get this attractiveness, then. Thinking of this, Shiwa squatted in a corner and laughed foolishly. Chapter 839. How was Zhang Feng composing a poem at this moment? He hid at the door and watched Jingshu leave with some boxes through the crack of the door. Only then did he heave a deep sigh of relief. What kind of sin did he commit? Zhang Feng sighed again. He lit a cigarette and walked to the door. Looking at Shiva, who was laughing foolishly, Zhang Feng rolled his eyes and went back to his room. Then, he simply fell asleep. And when Zhang Feng fell asleep, Yi Zichen was stunned. At the foot of the mountain, in an inn with the same name as the Uli Inn in Chang'an City, Qing Chimo, Li Qingxian, and the others were pacing back and forth anxiously, while Yuchi Baochi was squatting at the door and smoking. His face was blue and purple. Obviously, he had been beaten up. Wei Shuyu and Zhang Sun were playing poker without a care in the world. They didn't even think about what happened to Zhang Feng. As for this, there were naturally people who were worried. After all, they weren't the ones who brought him up. Tap, tap, tap. Suddenly, there were hurried footsteps on the wooden stairs. Li Qingxian and Qing Chimo couldn't help but be startled. They hurriedly looked at the door. Seeing the person, Li Qingxian asked, "How's the situation on the mountain? Did a fight break out? Who won? Is Fengzi okay?" Seeing this, the person hurriedly said, "Young Master Li, nothing happened on the mountain. That woman has already gone down the mountain. She didn't have any entanglement with Jingshu and the others." Hearing this, Li Qingxian heaved a deep sigh of relief. It was good that nothing happened. If something had happened, it would be a big deal. Thinking of this, Li Qingxian was furious. He kicked Yuchi Baochi hard and said, "It's all your fault. Your father is an old bastard, and you're following him." "Who is that?" "That's your aunt. How dare you trick your aunt like this?" "Well, what if it worked? Fengzi isn't married. Besides, which man doesn't have multiple wives? What did I do wrong?" Yuchi Baochi muttered. Li Qingxian became even angrier when he heard this. "Tell me, one is your aunt, the other is Fengzi. How are we going to teach them in the future? What's his name?" "Your father, that old bastard, didn't think of this. Are you following in his footsteps?" "That's right. Why are you following suit?" Qing Chimo also took the opportunity to slap him. Li Qingxian was so angry that he pointed at Qing Chimo's nose and said, "This is all your rotten idea. Don't think that Lao Tzu doesn't know that Yuchi Baochi wouldn't do something like this. Which eye of yours saw me do it?" Qing Chimo could not take it anymore. Li Qingxian didn't say anything. He only snorted. Qing Chimo didn't say anything. He knew that it was useless to say anything. "Do you know the consequences if my father finds out about this?" "Who was old you?" Who was Feng Zi? If you let someone spread rumors about you, Tai Nyo, you'll be harming old Yu's family, do you know that? Qing Chimo, Zhang Sun, and the others were shocked when they heard this. It really was like that. Yu Qigong held an important position, and many people in the imperial court didn't like him. However, he had always been straightforward and didn't have any tricks up his sleeves. This saved the emperor from liking him. If Yu Qigong married his younger sister to Zhang Feng in the past, it wouldn't be a big deal. Everyone would just chuckle. But now? Feng Zi had mastered such important military skills, and he even had amazing methods of training soldiers. At this time, it was hard not to think too much about it. This was what Li Qingxian was most worried about. If someone in the imperial court submitted a memorial, Yu Qigong would be in danger. Even the emperor wouldn't be able to protect him. At this time, Qing Chimo also became anxious. Then, what's wrong with men and women getting married when they're of age? Can't Feng Zi get married? Uncle Yu isn't wrong. Yes. They aren't wrong, but if you were in the past, no one would be wrong. However, the wrong thing is that the borders are in chaos now, and it's inevitable that there will be unrest in the imperial court. If someone wants to use this against you, then... Qing Chimo and Yuchi Baoqi turned pale with fright when they heard this. Even Wei Shuyu and Yu Baoqi's expressions turned serious. What do we do? Then what do we do now? Li Qingxian pondered for a while, then looked at the gradually darkening sky. He muttered, "Let's go up the mountain. Let's go see how Feng Zi is doing with her first." When they heard this, how could they dare to delay? They hurriedly packed up and ran up the mountain. Yu Qiyu had left long ago. After all, her identity was special, and the longer she stayed on the mountain, the more rumors there would be. She wasn't a flower vase, so she naturally knew what was going on. Thus, she left as soon as she went down the mountain. This was also what made Li Qingxian and the others anxious. No one knew what had happened in the end, or what they had talked about. To be honest, Li Qingxian and the others had slept with many women, but Yu Qiyu's eyes still made them lose their minds the moment they saw them. They were very worried about Zhang Feng's self-control. This kid was still a fledgling. His self-control towards this thing was, they were very nervous. If Zhang Feng couldn't control himself, then it would be a big problem. Previously, Li Qingxian thought that Yu Qigong was just joking about introducing his sister to Zhang Feng. Who would have thought that Yu Qigong was actually serious about it? This was simply, he was playing with fire. Li Qingxian anxiously went up the mountain with Qing Chimo and the others. At this time, lanterns and bonfires were already lit on the mountain. All the craftsmen and students had entered their own small worlds. Other than the patrolling imperial guards disguised as guards, there was basically no one else to be seen. They searched for a while and came to Zhang Feng's door. Looking at the flickering candlelight and Jingshu playing the zither alone in the candlelight, they were troubled. If they went in directly? That wouldn't do. If they waited like this, how long would they have to wait? Li Qingxian couldn't help but kick Qing Chimo and say, "Go get Feng Zi for me." "I'm not going." "Are you going or not?" Qing Chimo poked his head out to look at Jingshu in the room, then retracted his head. "I'm not going." "Who's outside?" At this time, Jingshu, who was playing the zither, seemed to be startled by Qing Chimo's voice. They had no choice but to stand up. "Miss Jingshu, it's me, Li Qingxian." Jingshu was slightly surprised. "So it's young Master Li. It's so late. Are you looking for Prince Zhang? He hasn't gone out since this afternoon. He's composing a poem. When he wakes up, I'll send someone to send you a message." Composing a poem? If this kid wasn't drunk, how could he compose a poem? However, when he stood up, everything in the room entered his eyes. Other than Jingshu, Steamed Bun and Little Chui were looking at Jingshu playing the zither with their chins in their hands. Only the young lady of the Zhang mansion, Zhang Yuyao, was missing. They couldn't help but be surprised. Could it be that this kid, ahem? Just as Li Qingxian cupped his fists and was about to leave, Zhang Feng coughed. What's the matter? Seeing Zhang Feng speak, Li Qingxian shouted, "There's a situation in the paper mill at the foot of the mountain. Quickly come out and investigate." What? Wait, I'm coming now. A moment later, Zhang Feng put on his outer robe and said a few words to Jingshu before leaving the room. After they walked for a while, they stopped at a construction site. Qing Chimo lay on Zhang Feng's shoulder and sniffed left and right. Zhang Feng was so angry that he wanted to beat him. "Qing Tinu, are you AF** king dog?" Qing Chimo smiled and didn't refute. "Feng Zi, you're awesome. How's spring night?" It would have been better if he didn't say it. Once he said it, Zhang Feng instantly became angry. He grabbed Qing Chimo's collar and punched his fat face. "I'll F** king spring night your uncle. Lao Tzu will beat you to death, you bastard." Chapter 840. After Zhang Feng gave Qing Chimo a good beating, his anger gradually subsided a lot. Zhang Feng was speechless. Apart from the first punch on Qing Chimo's face, which had some effect, he didn't seem to hurt Qing Chimo at all. In the end, Zhang Feng could only give up. He sat on the stone, panting, and asked, "Who on earth was that woman in the afternoon?" How could Qing Chimo dare to tell him? If he did, wouldn't Fengzi really go crazy? He kicked Yuchi Baochi and said, "Ask him. He knows better than me." Zhang Feng looked at Qing Chimo suspiciously, but Qing Chimo didn't dare to tell him. If he did, he might get beaten up. Although he wasn't afraid of Zhang Feng, he was afraid of the four Confucians. If those fellows were to find out about this, his father might climb up the mountain to help him loosen his bones before he could even return home. At the thought of this, Qing Chimo refused to tell him. He kept pointing at Yuchi Baolin. Yuchi Baolin wanted to cry. "If I tell you, can you not beat me up?" Zhang Feng looked over the bonfire. This guy's face was bruised. Obviously, he had been beaten up. He said angrily, "Tell me." That's my aunt." Zhang Feng was completely stunned. He stared at Yuchi Baochi for a long time before he came to his senses. He asked in a trembling voice, You say it again. Who is she?" "My aunt." Buzz. Yuchi Gong's big flat face and Yu's peerless beauty instantly appeared in Zhang Feng's mind. Even if the Photoshop guru of the later generation forced him to his death, it would still be difficult for him to Photoshop these two people into the same appearance. How were they similar? Wasn't this a joke? Were they born by their mothers? A fairy and a yiksha. Oh my god. Was there really such a weirdo? Ahem, Fengzi, don't think too much. Captain, you and old Yu are distant relatives. As the daughter of old Yu's distant uncle, she indeed doesn't look like one. But don't worry, I can guarantee that Miss Yu is really only 18 years old this year. Without waiting for Li Qingxian to speak, Zhang Feng waved his hand and moaned, "Don't say anything. Let me digest this." Zhang Feng was completely confused. Didn't he just cheat old Yu out of a few things? Was it necessary? Who asked him to choke her and lift her collar when they met for the first time? Who wouldn't get angry if they were in his shoes? Last time, he remembered that old Yu had mentioned this when he was drunk. He had just taken it as a joke. But now, it seemed that this wasn't a joke at all. This was serious. Although Yu was indeed very beautiful, Zhang Feng still did not want to die from exhaustion. Under those eyes, Zhang Feng always felt that his brain couldn't turn around. He had no control at all. This made him extremely unhappy. It was far from the peace he felt when he was with Jingshu and Zhang Yuyao. Most importantly, Zhang Feng did not want to provoke such a woman. Such a woman, whether in history or in reality, was an extremely wild character. He had to stay as far away from this kind of person as he could. If he got entangled with her, he wouldn't be able to rest for the rest of his life. Zhang Feng really didn't want to be a bootlicker. Moreover, what about this relationship? Although at this time, old Yu and Lao Li of Huayu called each other brothers, and so did their son, it didn't matter. If they became even closer, wouldn't it be a mess? From now on, should he call old you brother? Brother-in-law? What about these guys? Zhang Feng instantly had a headache. Damn it, forget it, he'd better take one step at a time. At this time, Zhang Feng really understood why the old scholar was so angry just now. He also felt that the old scholar was so cute. At the critical moment, he sent Zhang Yuyao and Jing Shu, the two shields, to the mountain. Otherwise, Zhang Feng really didn't know what would happen tonight. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng trembled a little and lit a cigarette. At the same time, he stared at Yuchi Baochi with great anger. Get down the mountain now. If your father doesn't come and tell me something, we won't see each other for the rest of our lives. Yuchi Baochi was shocked when he heard that. Fengzi, we don't have to do this. This is all my damn father's doing. It has nothing to do with me. Get out. Zhang Feng was extremely irritated. I really don't know what your father is thinking. How could he do such a stupid thing? Is he kidding? Get out, and Taimyo, you guys. From now on, until I'm not angry anymore, on the mountain. Qing Chimo and the others stared at Zhang Feng with great fear. Especially after Zhang Feng gasped for breath, they became even more nervous. Fengzi, can you say it all in one breath? Li Qingxian asked with great concern. Zhang Feng really didn't know what to ask these guys to do. It would be embarrassing to dig up feces, but would they obediently carry bricks? After thinking for a while, Zhang Feng finally patted his head and pointed in the direction of the waterfall. I'll give you until the Mid-Autumn Festival. No matter what method you have, under the condition that you don't use the mountain labor, you have to draw water from the waterfall to me. Also, you have to level out a piece of land in the grassland behind the mountain. You have to build a drill ground with cement. Are you crazy? Chapter 841. Zhang Feng didn't care what method these people used. He didn't care about their pleas and slipped away, leaving behind a few people with a headache looking at each other. Brother Qian, what do we do now? Counting the days, there are only 21 days until mid-autumn. How can we draw the water from the waterfall in such a short time? It's impossible. Qing Chimo complained without tears. Even if thousands of craftsmen across Shao Mountain were mobilized, it would still take 3 miles to reach the mountain gate from the waterfall. Additionally, there was a hollow between the mountain on the other side of the waterfall and the mountain gate. How could they draw the water here? This was simply a fantasy story. And that thatched pond, what could they do after flattening it? Although the thatched swamp was located between their dormitory area and the teaching building, it was not planned to be their living area. Wasn't it Feng Zi who allowed them to keep the thatched swamp? What kind of madness was this? They wanted to flatten it? Although flattening the thatched pond was fine, but the water, it was simply a dream. The most important thing was that this batch wasn't allowed to use the people on the mountain. What should they do? Could it be that they had to go to the barracks to call for reinforcements? I think, this is Feng Zi's test for us. At this time, Du Go, who was smoking, said, do you guys still remember the water flow principle that Zhang Feng told us before? Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Only then did they start to think carefully. But at this time, only Du Go and Li Qingxian could think of something. Other than them, how could they remember these things? They were originally just idling around, waiting for Zhang Feng's military knowledge. As for the things that Zhang Feng was talking about, they had a headache. What air resistance? What water pressure? How could they know what these things were? If they wanted to know, they might as well jump into the water and swim around. Then they would know everything. Li Qingxian looked around and couldn't help but be speechless. De Bing, quickly go and wake up Hao Chujun and the others. Tell them to immediately go to our room. Tai Niu and the others are trash. They won't be able to help at all. Li Qingxian finally slapped his thigh. Since Zhang Feng did not allow them to use the laborers on the mountain, Hao Chujun and the others could not. They were students, and he had a feeling that Zhang Feng was serious this time. If they didn't handle this matter well, their credits for this year would be gone. Dugo did not hesitate and gave Ching Chumo and the others a kick. The few of them hastily took on the role of lackeys. There was nothing they could do. They really did not understand this stuff. If they were asked to beat someone up or use brute force, they would be able to do it. As for using their brains, forget it. Ching Chumo and Dugo walked back while pondering about this matter. From the water wheel to the bridge, they had thought about it, but they couldn't complete it within 20 days, not to mention the removal of the large swath of grass. The two of them couldn't help but hold the lantern and silently return to their small wooden hut, quietly waiting. In fact, Zhang Feng had already predicted that these few people would not be able to do it. Returning to the small wooden hut, the joy on his face first made Jingshu surprised. Then she asked, "Prince Zhang, did you think of some evil move again?" "What evil move?" Zhang Feng hurriedly quibbled. Jingshu covered her mouth and laughed. "This matter, it is very obvious that those few people are playing tricks on you. According to your temper in the past, if you don't teach them a lesson, then it would not be Prince Zhang's character." Zhang Feng somewhat embarrassedly looked up and down at Jingshu. It is better for girls not to be too smart, especially not to guess blindly. Otherwise, there will be trouble. Jingshu did not feel embarrassed. She looked at Zhang Feng and smiled. It was as if she was waiting for Zhang Feng. Zhang Feng could only raise his hands in surrender. "I'm going to sleep first. Rest early. I'm waiting for Prince Zhang's poem. I wonder if Prince Zhang has any great works." What great works could Zhang Feng have? He knew how to plagiarize. Zhang Feng also knew that Jingshu took the initiative to find a topic to get close to him. Zhang Feng could not help but have a bigger headache. He casually thought in his mind and thought of a poem. "Ahem, this poem is a little long. If you want to hear it." "Yes." Zhang Feng wanted to find an excuse to change the date, but Jingshu did not give him a chance. Zhang Feng's face stiffened. Why did the original method not work now? Fine. Then let's have a poem." After thinking for a while, Zhang Feng's mind instantly thought of a poem that suited his mood at this time. He could not help but cough. His face instantly became very solemn and he recited, 10,000 gold goblets of wine, 10,000 jade bowls of shame. Stopping the cup and chopsticks, unable to eat, unsheathing the sword and looking around at a loss. Trying to cross the Yellow River, blocked by ice, trying to climb the Taihang Mountains covered with snow. Fishing in the blue stream, suddenly riding a boat by the sun's edge. The road is difficult. The road is difficult. Many crossroads, where am I today? Sometimes the wind and waves will break, straight up the clouds and sail to the sea. The great Tao is like the blue sky, I can't find it alone. After finishing, Zhang Feng saw Jingshu's stunned face. He could not help but endlessly show off, "Ahem, this poem was created on a whim today. Miss Jingshu, go to bed early. I'm going to rest first." After finishing, Zhang Feng directly slipped away. What a joke. This poem was one of the difficulties of the poet immortally Taibai. Even if Jingshu was more intelligent than others, it was enough for her to taste. Take your time to think about it. Chapter 842. Jingshu was indeed shocked by Zhang Feng's poem. The perplexity and melancholy expressed in this poem made Jingshu's heart resonate with it. Her life was miserable. As a child, she was sold to an official prostitute. If it wasn't for a female official from the previous dynasty who taught her a set of zither skills, she might have already stepped into the mortal world. How could she get to know Zhang Feng? She always thought that Zhang Feng was a dissolute and unruly talent. But in his poems, there was always a kind of perplexity, which made Jingshu even more confused. Although there was a saying that Zhang Feng's family was suddenly hit by a flash flood and landslide in the Phoenix Ridge, and the whole family was buried in the mud in the mountains, Jingshu didn't believe it. Because what Zhang Feng showed was too shocking. Especially his page of drunken poems. It was simply a shocking work. And Zhang Feng's benevolent government. Wait, Which one of these was done by the predecessors? Although Zhang Feng always said that he had a mysterious master, but who was that master? Who could have such great ability? Wild geese still leave traces. What about his master? There was also the complicated relationship between Zhang Feng and Li Shimin and others. Let's not talk about these. Besides, Zhang Feng had innovated too many things. In her opinion, one of them could leave his name in history and make Zhang Feng earn a lot of money. But Zhang Feng was still like a treasure that couldn't be dug out. This made Jingshu worried again. Although Zhang Feng was so happy every time she saw him, but today, in the deep of the moon, Jingshu actually heard the loneliness and melancholy in this poem. Involuntarily, Jingshu's beautiful cheeks slowly glistened with tears. However, at the same time, although this poem was casually recited by Zhang Feng, don't forget that this was the mountain. There would always be some mischievous people on the mountain who wanted to listen to the wall and secretly learn from it. This matter, Zhang Feng and Li Qingxian all knew, but they didn't say anything. Anyway, in Zhang Feng's opinion, these things that could be said out loud were not big things. Once there was a big matter, the door would be closed and everyone would tacitly go far away. There was no other way. If you didn't go, those imperial guards disguised as guards would have to ask you to sleep in the Supreme Court for half a year. But today, Zhang Feng had caused too much of a ruckus. Everyone knew that Zhang Feng's 2 wives had come. Although most of the people were well behaved and didn't secretly learn from them, there were still some people who curiously came over when they saw Zhang Feng return. Once they came, they couldn't be saved. Originally, they wanted to secretly learn some skills. After all, every time Zhang Feng gave private lessons to Li Qingxian, Hao Qujun, and the others, these students would drool. As time passed, it became a trend to listen to Zhang Feng's private lessons. Once they saw Zhang Feng close the door, they would run as far as they could. Once Zhang Feng didn't close the door, no one would care about you. You can listen if you want. At this time, when Zhang Feng was reciting the poem, coincidentally, there were 3 students who were squatting below Zhang Feng's window. Seeing the 2 people talking, they were wondering if they should leave. Zhang Feng's words made their eyes burst with a flash of ecstasy. President Zhang Feng was going to compose a poem. And it was a poem that took him an entire afternoon to compose. It should be known that Zhang Feng usually didn't compose poems. But once he did, he would open his mouth and compose several poems at once. President Zhang used an entire afternoon to compose these poems. They instantly took out their brushes and ink from their arms in ecstasy. They were so nervous that they were sweating all over. When Zhang Feng's voice faded away, they were dumbfounded. After looking at each other, the 3 of them frantically recorded on the yellow paper, bamboo slips, and even the book covers that they had prepared in advance to secretly learn. It should be known that Zhang Feng had a lot of famous sayings on the mountain now. Each one of them was worth at least 1,000 strings of coins. And they were priceless. Especially the road that no one walked on before became a road after many people walked on it. Because of this one sentence, some people even called out the value of the first 2 pieces of gold, wanting to buy the right to use this word. But, at this time, the eyes of the 3 people couldn't help but turn into copper coins. After they finished recording, they ran away trembling all over as if they had epilepsy. Early the next morning, at the entrance of Yuchi Manor, a person wearing the special servant uniform of White Deer College anxiously knocked on the door. That person knocked on the door. After confirming that the person who came out was the housekeeper, he handed over a slip of paper and then hurriedly disappeared. To be able to become an official in the Yuchi mansion, how could he not have some skills? When he saw that this thing came down from Shao Mountain, he hurriedly sent it to Yuchi Gong's study. But when he heard the clamorous snoring sound, the housekeeper wanted to knock on the door but didn't dare to. He anxiously scratched his ears and cheeks. "Housekeeper, what's the matter?" At this time, Yuchi Yu leisurely came over. Seeing this, the old housekeeper's eyelids twitched. He hurriedly bowed. "There's a letter that came down from Shao Mountain." "But master, Shao Mountain?" Yuqi's eyelids twitched. Then she smiled and said, "Cousin is resting at the moment. Just give it to me. I'll give it to him later." The housekeeper hesitated for a long time. But in the end, he clenched his teeth and handed it to Yuqi. The matter of Yuqi going up the mountain to meet Zhang Feng, as well as Yuqi Gong wanting to introduce his cousin to Zhang Feng, had long been spread in the manor. So at this time, everyone naturally treated Yuqi as a member of Shao Mountain. It wasn't excessive to give it to her. After the housekeeper left, Yuqi lightly knocked on the door a few times. A moment later, Madame Yuqi yawned and opened the door. When she saw Yuqi standing at the door, she couldn't help but ask in astonishment, "You What are you doing so early in the morning?" "Madam, this is a letter from Shao Mountain. I saw that the housekeeper didn't dare to knock on the door, so I did it on his behalf." Yuqi pursed her lips and smiled. Madame Yuqi waved her hand. "I was wondering what it was. That dead man is sleeping so deeply that even 8 horses can't pull him awake. Let's take a look first. If there's something urgent, we'll wake him up." Hearing this, Yuqi's eyes flashed. She supported Madame Yuqi into Yuqi Gong's study. Yuqi didn't shy away. In front of Madame Yuqi, she opened the letter. There were only a few short lines. But the moment she saw these lines, Yuqi's expression changed greatly. Chapter 843. Reporting. Your Majesty, urgent report. Li Shimin, who had just walked out of the court, had not yet entered the imperial study to review the memorials when he heard a hurried report at the door of Taiji Palace. Li Shimin frowned slightly, but when he saw the symbolic clothing of Mount Shao on that person, he waved his hand, "Go in and talk." As soon as he entered the imperial study, Li Shimin looked at the person who opened the door and asked with a solemn expression, "What's the matter?" "There's a letter from Mount Shao. It's Prince Zhang who did something big last night." "Oh." When Li Shimin heard this, he couldn't help but be interested. After waving his hand to signal Shao Gizi to read it, he slowly sat on the soft couch, smoking and drinking tea in a very comfortable manner. Shao Gizi took the letter and opened it. He, who had always been serious and did not have a trace of change in his expression, could not help but be moved at this time. Taking a deep breath, he said, "Golden wine and wine bowl for 10,000, jade plate for shame straight to 10,000. Stop cup and chopsticks can't eat, draw sword and look around at heart at a loss." And on the other side, in Wei Zheng's residence, Wei Zheng slowly looked at the note in his hand with a stunned expression, muttering, "Trying to cross the Yellow River, the river is blocked by ice, trying to climb the Taihang Mountains covered with snow. Come fishing on the blue stream, suddenly ride a boat to dream of the sun, the road is difficult. The road is difficult. Many paths, where are you today?" In Li Yuan's bedroom. At this time, Li Yuan's originally hazy sleepiness was instantly read by the female official kneeling in front of the bed. He did not completely wake up. "There will be times when the wind and waves will break, directly hang the clouds sail to the vast sea. The great Tao is like the blue sky, I can't get it alone." Is this really that kid's poem?" Li Yuan asked in surprise. The female official trembled all over and hurriedly said, "This was passed down by the Jianghu guards of Mount Shao, it can't be fake. Go down, investigate again." Li Yuan waved his hand and dismissed the servants. He took the note from the concubine's hand. The more he looked at it, the happier he was. Li Shimin, Wei Zheng, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and the others saw the poem almost at the same time. They also knew about this poem. Basically, everyone who knew about it. After all, if their son could go up the mountain, there would definitely be personal guards following him. It wasn't surprising that he was able to obtain such information. Almost at the same time, they frowned and looked in the direction of Shao Mountain, asking, "What is that kid doing? Why does this poem make me feel so uncomfortable? How could the servant who delivered the letter know about this?" However, when they learned that Yuqi Gong had introduced his cousin to Zhang Feng, they were shocked. At almost the same time, They immediately thought of the Taiji Palace. They all headed towards Li Shimon's imperial study room. Li Shimon also said, "Little Gizi, quickly summon the dukes. Especially that old man Yuchi. As long as he's not dead, you have to carry him here even if you have to." Seeing this, little Gizi's face twitched. Yes. Zhang Feng, this kid, had always been cheerful and carefree. These two women couldn't arouse his interest. At this time, giving him another one, wouldn't that be asking for his life? However, this kid didn't seem to be someone who couldn't control himself when he saw a woman, right? Otherwise, wouldn't that Jingshu have been taken in by him long ago? Could it be that there was something different about this Yuchi Yu? Otherwise, why would that kid's mentality collapse? Li Shimon couldn't help but ask curiously, "That's right, let that old man Yuchi bring Yuchi Yu. We want to see who exactly this Yuchi Yu is." Little Gizi was stunned when he heard this. "Your Majesty, if Yuchi Yu doesn't have status, she can't enter. Just say that we summon her." Little Gizi shrank his neck when he heard this, then hurriedly retreated. On the other side, Yuchi Gong was woken up in a daze by the woman's needles. He was about to get angry, but Madame Yuchi threw the slip of paper in her hand at Yuchi Gong's face and said, "This is your fault, so do as you see fit." Just now, the servants reported that Wei Zheng and the other old fellows have received it. They're all running around the palace, and you're still trying to wake me up like a corpse. Another 2 hours and you'll really be a corpse. Yuchi Gong was shocked when he heard this. He hurriedly looked at the paper, but there was no rush. After carefully reading it, he was so shocked that his forehead was covered in sweat. He wanted to curse. However, he couldn't curse in front of Yuchi Yu. If it weren't for this damned woman's incitement, this wouldn't have happened. He originally thought that with Zhang Feng's thick nerves, there wouldn't be a problem. Great, now the matter had blown up. How could Yuchi Gong dare to sleep? He hurriedly got up and shouted as he crawled, "Old Ding, quickly prepare the carriage. Lao Tzu wants to enter the palace." Men. As he put on his boots, Yuchi Gong glanced at Yuchi Yu. Yuchi Yu was as calm as usual, as if this matter wasn't caused by her. Yuchi Gong couldn't help but wonder if he had done the right thing. However, it was useless to say that now. As he ran outside, he pointed at Yuchi Yu and said, "You follow me into the palace. Don't you think this matter has blown up?" Madame Yuchi wanted to scold him, but Yuchi Gong retorted, "If she doesn't go, Lao Tzu will really be in big trouble. If His Majesty takes a look at you, this matter might really work." There was such a thing? Madame Yuchi and Yuchi Yu were both shocked. "Let's go, Grand Aunt. If we don't go now, none of us will have to go." Chapter 844. 2 hours later. In the imperial study. Li Yuan calmly sits on the side of the dragon throne, sitting together with Li Shimon. In the imperial study, Wei Zheng and the others are also whispering something, sometimes excited, sometimes serious. "Your Majesty, the Duke of Yi requests an audience." "Summon him." Li Shimon doesn't even think about it, directly waving his hand. Soon after, Yuchi Gong carefully walks into the imperial study with his big belly. As soon as he enters, Li Shimon coldly snorts and says, "Yuchi Gong, do you know your crime?" Yuchi Gong is shocked when he hears this. "Your Majesty, this old general doesn't know what crime I have committed." "What crime?" Li Yuan interrupts Li Shimon, slightly narrowing his eyes and asks, "You introduced your sister to that kid, what are your intentions?" Li Shimon rolls his eyes, wanting to say something, but after glancing at Yuchi Gong, he finally crosses his arms and watches a good show. Qing Yaojin and the others are the same at this time, smoking while lowering their heads and frowning, as if thinking about something important. After a hurried glance, Yuchi Gong's heart thumps, hurriedly saying, replying to retired emperor, "This was a joke this old official played with Zhang Feng. You also know that I am henpecked. These things were all done by my fierce wife, it has nothing to do with this old official." Li Yuan smiles slightly, without a trace of change in expression. "I know what you're capable of, but if you hadn't told anyone about this, your wife would have found out. We know your wife's temperament very well. Without your approval, would Wuxia have been able to ascend the mountain? Don't think I don't know what you are planning. If you marry that kid, won't your Wuxia family be able to achieve meteoric success? I don't care about this. I believe that the emperor is too lazy to care. After all, you are the duke, you have to think about me and the emperor. You want to push the emperor and me to the tip of the blade, to block the blade for the rise of your Wuxia family? Wuxia Gong's face changes when he hears this. He hurriedly knelt down and said, "Retired emperor, this official has been wronged. I just saw that the kid was lonely on the mountain. Moreover, that kid is impetuous. I cherish talent. You also know the ability that kid has. If everyone were to guard him, there would be trouble. That girl of mine." "Shut up." Li Yuan frowned slightly. "You're quite thoughtful. Do you think that His Majesty and I haven't made any arrangements? Do I need you to worry about this? Does His Majesty and I have to thank you?" Wuxia Gong was shocked and quickly shut his mouth. "Father." Seeing this, Li Shimin hurriedly called for a halt. "Imperial father, although the Duke of Yi was rather impetuous in this matter, he did mention something that reminded us. You also know that some time ago, that brat discovered something called immortal ointment. We already had people experiment with it in the death row prison. That thing is truly harmful to people. If you eat it, you will be neither human nor ghost. For such a thing to suddenly appear in Shao Mountain is truly not a normal matter. The Duke of Yi is in charge of the safety of Shao Mountain, so it's only right for him to think about Zhang Feng. It's just that he didn't think about everything, humph." Li Yuan coldly snorted. But he could only ask, "Then what does your Majesty plan to do? If possible, how about we introduce one of your imperial sisters to Fengzi? You can issue an imperial edict." When Li Shimin heard this, he became even more ridiculous. His face darkened. He remained silent. Li Shimin also wanted to. But there was no suitable candidate. They were either too young or already married. Otherwise, why would Li Shimin go through so much trouble? So he tacitly approved and even secretly urged on Jingshu and Zhang Yuyao. If Li Shimin wanted to interfere, he could do so with a single word, but he did not. However, this Wuxia Gong was indeed a little impetuous. Although he had good intentions, forget it, forget it. That kid should be the one to make the decision. We still think that we should let that kid make the decision. As for what the outcome will be, we will only know in the future. Your Majesty, if that's the case, how will you deal with those court officials?" Li Yuan could not help but feel slightly dissatisfied. He waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Let that Wuxia come in first. We are very curious. Even Jingshu and Zhang Yuyao could not touch that kid. Just what kind of ability does this Wuxia have?" Seeing this, Wuxia Gong was overjoyed and hurriedly urged little Gizi. After little Gizi waited for Li Shimin to nod, he lazily roared, "Summon Wuxia for an audience. Your Majesty, do you think that this Wuxia and the Duke of Yi are cousins? Then don't the two of them look very similar?" Li Yuan quietly teased, but his voice was not so low. Li Shimin's expression also froze. Could it be that because she was too ugly, that kid? That's right. Wuxia Gong was so big and burly. How beautiful could his cousin be? Could it be, while Li Yuan and Li Shimin were making blind guesses, the powdered Wuxia gracefully walked into the imperial study. Instantly, Li Shimin and Li Yuan's eyes froze. Wuxia pays respects to your Majesty, pays respects to retired emperor. The crisp and deeply enchanting voice caused Cheng Yaojin and the others to suddenly look towards the door. But in the next moment, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. Especially after seeing Wuxia's eyes. "Cough cough, beloved official Cheng, look at you, pay attention to your appearance." Chapter 845. Those eyes. No wonder Zhang Feng was flustered. Even Li Shimin and the others, who had seen countless people and created people as powerful as mountains in their hearts, were deeply stunned when they saw her today. She was a demon. Even Li Yuan. At this time, he was also somewhat emotional. But when he thought that she was that boy's woman, he could only sigh. He scolded Xing Yaojin and the others, who were staring. Then he waved his hand and said, "You are Yuqi Yu. Get up and raise your head." Yuqi Yu raised her head. Li Yuan and Li Shimon's brows raised slightly. Even if they already paid attention to their image, they were still somewhat shocked in their hearts. But there was not a trace of expression on their faces. This involuntarily made Yuqi Yu's eyes flash with a trace of disappointment. This trace of disappointment was deeply grasped by Li Yuan. He frowned slightly and said, "Yesterday on the mountain, you saw that boy. What is your impression of him?" Without waiting for Yuqi Yu to speak, Li Yuan said again, "We and the emperor will not interfere in this matter. As for whether that boy Zhang Feng accepts you or not, that will depend on your own ability. But you should be a smart person. Don't use small tricks. It will only increase Zhang Feng's disgust. That's enough, you can leave now." Li Yuan's words involuntarily made Li Shimon, Wei Zheng, and the others shocked in their hearts. At the same time, they also carefully savored Li Yuan's words. At the same time, their backs could not help but exude cold sweat. This woman was not simple. Yuqi Yu withdraws. Yuqi Yu naturally finally panicked at this time. Just now, she clearly hid that trace of disappointment in her heart very well, but it was still seen by Li Yuan, this old fox. What did this mean? Could it be, Yuqi Yu walked out of the imperial study in confusion, but did not plan to leave? However, who was little Gizi? Early on, he sent 2 little eunuchs and 2 palace maids to follow behind her and keep an eye on her. This woman was not simple. Otherwise, the retired emperor would not be angry. Who was Li Yuan? The women around him were as many as the hairs on an ox. What kind of woman had he not seen? What kind of woman had he not tried to figure out? With just one sentence from Li Yuan, sometimes these eunuchs and palace maids could instantly understand a lot of things. After all, they were making a living in the palace. If they did not try to figure out their master's temperament, that would simply be courting death. Yuqi Yu aside for now. The atmosphere in the imperial study was heavy and strange. Li Yuan and Li Shimon whispered to each other for a while. Li Shimon's face also sank slightly. Then, he gave Yuqi Gong a meaningful look and said indifferently, "This emperor and the retired emperor will not care about this. Like I said before, Duke of Yi, you should take care of yourself. This emperor advises you that you should let this matter develop. Alright, all of you are dismissed for now. As for this matter, if anyone asks, just say that Yuqi Yu admired Zhang Feng's literary talent and the reputation of Daoist Academy, and that's why she went up the mountain to pay a visit to the 4 great Confucians. After that, don't mention this matter again." When they heard this, they knew what Li Shimon meant. They stood up and bowed. "We understand. Alright, all of you are dismissed." After everyone left, Li Shimon asked, "Father, do you mean that this Yuqi Yu's thoughts are not pure?" Li Yuan nodded. "Send someone to Jiangnan to investigate, and you will know that this woman's thoughts are very heavy. Perhaps she is greedy. However, this woman's eyes are not a kind person. Moreover, we should take one step at a time. That boy should not be a kind person either. For the time being, let's not worry about it. However, it is enough to send someone to secretly keep an eye on this woman." When Li Shimon heard this, his heart sank slightly. Then, if by any chance, "Father," Li Yuan narrowed his eyes and drew a line under his neck with his right hand. "For the sake of that boy, if it really comes to that step, then so be it. However, this emperor really wants these 2 to succeed. If they succeed, then it will be wonderful. You know that boy Zhang Feng's temper, and this woman, these 2 are like needles. This emperor really wants to see what kind of tricks they will play when they combine like this." Ha ha ha. Li Yuan laughed loudly and walked away. After Li Shimin pondered for a moment, he smiled and lit a cigarette. He no longer cared about this matter. Instead, he carefully admired Zhang Feng's new poem again. Little Geezy, Brush and Ink. Although the thing was good, it was written on a small piece of paper. Li Shimin could not help but feel pity for it. Then, his poetic interest was greatly aroused. After dipping the brush in ink, he brewed this poem on the white paper like a dragon and snake. Then, he suddenly opened his eyes and copied this poem. Good poem. Before this, I really didn't see anything wrong with this poem. However, now that your Majesty wrote it like this, a feeling of overlooking the common people suddenly appeared on the paper. When little Geezy saw this, he exclaimed. Li Shimin touched his chin and had people raise it up. After looking at it from afar, he could not help but laugh loudly. It's not that this emperor wrote it well, but Zhang Feng's poem is originally very good. Little Geezy, tell me, what's so good about this poem? Li Shimin put down the brush and ink, then lit a cigarette and asked. Little Geezy bent over and looked at it carefully, then said, it's good in the momentum of this poem. Tell me about it. When little Geezy heard this, he quickly knelt on the ground. Your Majesty, please forgive this servant's sin first. Okay, I forgive your sin. Hearing this, little Geezy said, this poem is like the current Tang dynasty. Although everything seems to be developing well, there are wolves around the Tang dynasty. In fact, the Tang dynasty is like a trapped beast, so this servant thinks that the meaning of this poem is like the current Tang dynasty. Chapter 846. The smile on Li Shimin's face disappeared. It was just as little Geezy had said. The Tang dynasty was not peaceful now. Although everything seemed fine on the inside, only a few people knew that the three great powers were still three mountains weighing down on the Great Tang. Although one of them was in imminent danger, it had yet to topple. As for the Shandong aristocrats, they would have to wait for the imperial examination held in Zhang Feng's academy 3 years later to decide. Originally, the imperial examination system was held once every 3 years. According to the plan, there would be an imperial examination this year. However, too many things had happened in the past few years. Later, Zhang Feng suddenly appeared. Li Shimin had to grit his teeth and cancel this year's imperial examination on the grounds of the disaster this year. Wasn't this why Li Shimin was confused? The more he read the poem, the more shocked Li Shimin became. Little Geezy, come and look. This poem, Li Shimin called him and then shook his head. Forget it. You can leave now. I need to be alone. On the other side. In a tea house in Chang'an City. At this moment, Blind Sun appeared in front of everyone's expectant eyes again. Pa! He slammed the gavel. All the people in the tea house instantly focused their eyes on him. Even the people on the second floor, because of the paper by incident, did not dare to treat Blind Sun as an ordinary person anymore. After Blind Sun heard the silence in the hall, he slowly took a sip of tea and slowly said, Today, we will still talk about the matter of Mount E. Hearing Mount Shao, everyone was instantly interested. Blind Sun, isn't Mount Shao the White Deer College? Did the college produce something good again? A young man in a green robe on the second floor cupped his hands and asked. Hearing this, Blind Sun cupped his hands and said to the second floor, Child Zhou, you must have heard of the name Zhang Feng, right? The young man in the green robe nodded. Yes, I have heard of him. This person, good. Blind Sun interrupted him, but young Master Zhou didn't even dare to fart. That Zhang Feng is the disciple of an extraordinary person. But today, let's not talk about his legend, and how he managed to turn those stubborn disciples into obedient grandsons. Let's talk about his talent. Talent? Although this person heard that the 4 great Confucians jointly recommended him to be the great Confucian, it has never been confirmed. Now, the 4 great Confucians have all run to the mountain and don't show their faces. Even the medicine god Sun Simiao has stayed on the mountain and doesn't come down. Everyone was still curious. This Blind Sun actually wanted to talk about it. Everyone couldn't help but become even more curious. This Prince Zhang Feng. Let's not talk about anything else. Just based on his talent, I'm sure everyone can recognize a few of his poems. For example, I'm sure everyone has heard of that poem, right? Hearing this, everyone could not help but nod. That's right, this poem is indeed shocking. However, this has nothing to do with talent, right? Ha ha ha. Blind Sun stroked his beard and laughed loudly. Then, he suddenly shouted, "Who said that?" In an instant, the entire tea house suddenly became quiet. Whether a person is talented or not, let's not talk about other aspects first. A poem is enough to represent everything about this person. As he spoke, Blind Sun picked up the wine pot on the table and poured a cup of wine. He raised the cup and stood up. Then, he shouted loudly, "Don't you see, the water of the yellow river comes from the sky and flows to the sea, never to return. Don't you see, the bright mirror grieves white hair. Like black silk in the morning, like snow in the evening." After this poem, the entire tea house became silent. Even the scholars, and dignitaries on the second floor instantly became quiet. Everyone was trying to figure out the artistic conception of this poem. After Blind Sun's shout, everyone's hearts instantly surged. After a long while, Blind Sun still minded his own business and continued to drink his wine. On the third floor, a faint female voice sounded again. "Well said. Men, reward Prince Zhang's white wine." Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. White wine? What kind of wine is this? Under everyone's expectant gazes, a maidservant carried a white porcelain wine pot to a platform between the first and second floor. This was also the place where Blind Sun always told stories. Blind Sun cupped his fists towards the third floor. "Thank you, shopkeeper." Then, under everyone's gaze, he slowly poured a cup of wine. In an instant, the fragrance of the white wine filled everyone's hearts. Blind Sun sniffed and then praised, "Good wine." After drinking it in one gulp, Blind Sun's face instantly turned as red as blood. This scene shocked everyone. However, under everyone's gazes, Blind Sun placed his hand on his chest for a moment before taking a deep breath. Good wine. Good wine. No wonder young Master Zhang was able to compose such a beautiful poem. I'm afraid that the wine is the most important thing. As expected of Prince Zhang, who was given the title of Wine Immortal by the four great scholars. Wine Immortal? Zhang Feng's title was Wine Immortal? This, everyone couldn't help but be stunned. Smelling the wine in the air and recalling the poem that Blind Sun had just recited, everyone's mind couldn't help but spin. Those who could become saints and immortals, which one of them didn't have the ability to transcend the heavens and the earth? This Zhang Feng was only in his early 20s. How could he be called Wine Immortal? However, Blind Sun didn't say too much. Instead, he talked about Zhang Feng again. Just last night, Wine Immortal Prince Zhang created a masterpiece in Shao Mountain. At this moment, the emperor, the retired emperor, and even a few dukes in the imperial palace were alarmed. Chapter 847. On the mountain. When the gong sounded, it was time to open the gates. Zhang Feng slowly got out of bed. As soon as he went out and was about to call Shiva, Zhang Yuyao and Xiao Chui had already placed the copper basin on the table and were taking a nap. Seeing Zhang Feng come out, Xiao Chui quickly picked up the copper basin. Young master. Zhang Feng was stunned. How long have you been waiting here? Zhang Yuyao's cheeks were red. Not long. Not long, just 3 envoys. Before Zhang Yuyao could finish, Jingshu's faint voice sounded from another room. Zhang Feng took a look. He didn't know when, but Jing Shu was actually sitting in his confidential information room, flipping through an ancient book. Hearing this, Zhang Feng's head almost exploded. However, Zhang Feng thought about it again. I didn't ask you to wait. Forget it, I'll take it one step at a time. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng shamelessly pointed at the sink at the side and said, Don't worry. As expected. Xiao Chui obediently brought the copper basin to the basin and even handed Zhang Feng's towel to Zhang Yuyao. Zhang Feng didn't say anything. He calmly sat in front of the basin. Xiao Cui washed Zhang Feng's face, while Zhang Yuyao combed Zhang Feng's hair with a red face and a racing heart. After a while, Zhang Feng was like a puppet. Under Zhang Yuyao's torment, he looked brand new. However, when Zhang Feng saw what he was wearing in the copper mirror, he didn't feel good. There was nothing wrong with the crown. Pure gold embedded with gems, but what was the meaning of this green robe? Yuyao, this, Zhang Feng pointed to the green robe on his body and asked. That was knitted by Sister Yuyao in the past month. The thread is also from the mulberry silkworms that Sister Yuyao raised personally. Sister Jingshu, that's enough. Zhang Yuyao hurriedly interrupted Jingshu, but Zhang Feng understood everything. He wanted to take it off, but how could he do it now? How would he dare to take it off? Rubbing his nose, Zhang Feng calmly patted Zhang Yuyao's shoulder. Revealing a smile that he thought was charming, he said, "Thank you for your hard work. I like this robe very much." When Zhang Yuyao heard this, she lowered her head and blushed like an egg. Zhang Feng couldn't help but crack. He hurriedly found an excuse and said, "Oh right, it's time to eat. Clean up and let's eat. Miss Jingshu, it's time to eat. Shiva, where's my food? Where the hell did you go?" He's here." In an instant, Shiva, who had been standing outside the door for a long time, walked into the room awkwardly. He didn't even dare to raise his head as he hurriedly placed the food box on the table and slipped away. Seeing this, Zhang Feng was stunned. Jingshu placed the ancient book in her hand on the bookshelf and looked at Zhang Feng with a smile. "Prince Zhang doesn't have to be like this." "Why? But you're really Frank." "Frank my ass." Zhang Feng was embarrassed. He was angry and embarrassed. He didn't explain and sat down. He stared at Shui Er as she placed the exquisite dishes on the table. He waved his hand and said, "Let's eat." After hurriedly eating a few mouthfuls of food, Zhang Feng finally found an excuse and said, "I still have something to do at the foot of the mountain. I'll go first. You guys eat slowly." After saying this, he ran away as if he was fleeing from a disaster. When Zhang Feng left the room, he sighed in relief. However, when he looked at his toad-like green robe, Zhang Feng had the urge to beat someone up. Before this, he was still laughing at Shui Er's green robe. Now, in the blink of an eye, could it be that Zhang Yuyao likes green that much? No, I have to educate her. While thinking, Zhang Feng wandered around the mountain gate. At this moment, Uncle He came to Zhang Feng with a strange expression and said, "Feng Zi, come here." "What's wrong?" However, Uncle He didn't say anything. He pointed to the back of the kitchen. Zhang Feng saw Li Qingxian and the others waving at him. Since he wasn't full just now, Zhang Feng didn't care about it. However, when Zhang Feng entered the kitchen, Uncle He immediately drove everyone out. However, Zhang Feng didn't notice. He picked up the bowl of porridge that was prepared for him and gulped it down in one gulp. "Feng Zi, you're really famous now. Do you know?" Zhang Feng was a little confused. However, when he thought of he seemed to understand something. He lazily agreed and then asked while eating, "Oh, and then? And then? And then you ask?" Li Qingxian smiled and said, "What did you do last night?" "Last night? Wasn't it yesterday afternoon?" "Nothing. What else can I do except sleep? Except sleep." Hearing that, Zhang Feng put down his bowl and chopsticks. He looked at Qing Chumo and the others with a strange expression and asked, "Tell me clearly. Did I really go back to sleep last night after I finished talking with you? What else can I do except sleep?" Zhang Feng was a little impatient. Seeing that Zhang Feng didn't seem to know, Li Qingxian got close to Zhang Feng and asked, "Did you compose a poem last night?" Zhang Feng thought for a while. He did compose a poem. He nodded and asked, "You did? What's wrong? Where's the original work? Show it to us." Zhang Feng was even more confused. "Yesterday, I just casually told Jingshu a poem and then went to sleep." I don't have any original work. If you want an original work, write it yourself and stamp it with my seal. It's an original work. Hearing Zhang Feng's words, Li Qingxian and the others couldn't help but look serious. They said, Feng, are you sure you didn't write it last night? I wrote your grandma's leg. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't hold it in. It's uncomfortable. Seeing that Zhang Feng was angry, Li Qingxian lit a cigarette and blew out a smoke ring. He said, since you didn't write it, but today, your poem has been spread all over Chang'an city. You're famous. I'm famous? Zhang Feng was stunned. He pointed to his nose and asked, is there an immortal? Lao Tzu just said it casually. How did it spread to Chang'an city? Because you've been eavesdropped. Chapter 848. Had he been eavesdropped on? Zhang Feng's hair stood on end when he heard this. Who? Which bastard dared to eavesdrop on Lao Tzu? There were 3 kinds of people that Zhang Feng hated the most in his life. The first kind was gossiping. If Zhang Feng encountered this, he would be beaten up in the future. However, if he was in the Tang dynasty, he would definitely cut off that person's tongue. The second kind was those who secretly agreed but secretly disobeyed and betrayed. However, Zhang Feng hated this kind of eavesdroppers the most. They were the most detestable kind. There was no privacy at all. How could he play? This time, Zhang Feng unexpectedly became famous because of this eavesdropper. Li Qingxian saw this and said, it's 3 students. They are now kneeling in front of Mr. Bosher's door as punishment. Students? What's the point of keeping such students? Throw them off the mountain and don't let them take a step up the mountain for the rest of their lives. Zhang Feng was also furious. Li Qingxian saw this and sighed slightly. This is all your fault. Zhang Feng pointed at his nose and laughed angrily. Good fellow, how can you blame this on me? Yes, these students came up the mountain to study. Look at them during this time. These people are working as coolies. Do you think they can be balanced? And the most important thing is that you taught us alone during this time. This makes people jealous. You have a big mouth. From time to time, you would come up with amazing famous sayings. This made the students on the mountain even more restless. Other than when you close the door, under normal circumstances, there are people squatting outside your door at all times, waiting for your famous sayings. Hearing this, Zhang Feng's hair stood on end. Was there still privacy? Was there still human rights? Zhang Feng stared at Li Qingxian and said, don't you have servants on the mountain? Could it be that these servants were all incompetent? Don't they care about this? Li Qingxian spread his hands. They didn't do anything shameful. Besides, this kind of thing doesn't violate the Academy's rules. You didn't change the Academy's rules. Other than craftsmen, students are generally allowed to move freely at night. So, Li Qingxian shrugged. This kind of thing, he really couldn't care less. There had never been such a law in the Tang dynasty. This was a moral issue and could only be strictly educated. If there were any serious consequences, the government would take action. Zhang Feng was so angry that his whole body trembled. Big flat cake, remember this. Tomorrow, we'll make the rules now. You'll be in charge. Carve it on the gate at the foot of the mountain. All right. Dugo said indifferently. Then, he took out the brush and ink that he always carried with him and unfolded it. Students are not allowed to eavesdrop. Those who are caught will have their legs broken and will never be allowed to enter any place under my name for the rest of their lives. Students are not allowed to gossip, not allowed. Zhang Feng listed 9 of the Academy's commandments in one breath, and the eavesdropper was the first one. It could be seen that Zhang Feng was really angry. This was also the reason why they waited here alone for Zhang Feng. Most importantly, these people had been idle for too long. No one could sit still if they did these things all day long. The key was that Zhang Feng treated them differently. How could they be willing? That would be the real deal. Li Qingxian stared at Zhang Feng until his anger subsided. Then, he asked, Fengzi, when do you plan to start teaching these people officially? If you don't teach them now, they will go crazy. This was a big problem. Zhang Feng heard this and his anger subsided a lot. After a moment of silence, he said, how long will it take for the academy's construction to be completed? I'm talking about the academy's classes. Half a month. At the earliest, it will be half a month. Li Qingxian made a conservative estimate. Half a month. Zhang Feng touched his chin and thought for a while. Half a month it is. I'll go look for Mr. Bosher later. Tomorrow, we'll hold a general meeting of the academy. The day after tomorrow, we'll select those who you think are outstanding and start the formal teaching. Differential treatment? You're still here? Wei Shuyu and the others couldn't help but frown and look at Li Qingxian. Li Qingxian didn't know what Zhang Feng was thinking. Seeing this, he could only say, Fengzi, this matter, I think. Don't you think it's good? I want what I think. Zhang Feng interrupted Li Qingxian and said, look at the current situation in the world. People are divided into different classes. Why can't my academy do the same? Although I've said before that everyone here is equal, there are always a few shining stars among them. These are the people we need to focus on nurturing. This way, everyone in the academy will have a sense of crisis and a spirit of improvement. If thousands of people were to be educated fairly, would you be the one to teach them? Or me? Or let Mr. Bosher and the others do it? It'll be a wonder if they don't die of exhaustion. Li Qingxian was speechless. Zhang Feng's words made sense. However, the current situation was that most of the construction on the mountain was basically completed, but those who came from Jianghu and the surrounding areas were still unwilling to leave the mountain. On the one hand, it was because they could fill their stomachs here. On the other hand, Zhang Feng's charm made these people reluctant to leave. That was why the current situation was created. There were more people and less work. Once this person was free, it would be a big deal. Zhang Feng also thought of this point. You guys go and look for Mr. Gan. If possible, leave all the things in the academy to the students. As for the people on the mountain, leave the necessary ones. The rest will go and build the rubber factory, as well as the textile factory, the smelting factory, and the paper factory. As for the food factory, don't touch it for the time being. Hearing this, Li Qingxian's face finally burst with a hint of ecstasy. Zhang Feng was finally going to be serious. Chapter 849. After finishing the conversation with Qing Chumo and the others, Zhang Feng left. However, Li Qingxian and the others also successfully removed the task that Zhang Feng gave them. Last night, they thought for a long time. If they were to draw water from the waterfall, it was almost impossible to accomplish. Now that such a thing had happened, Zhang Feng was not in the mood to teach them what was called the wind-water method. After all, if these students who had nothing better to do were not taught well, then everything they did before would be in vain. This was the biggest problem. When Zhang Feng arrived, Yu Shinan and the others burst into laughter in Li Yuan's bamboo house. The most important thing was that they seemed to still be discussing Zhang Feng's new poem. At the door, 3 young men wearing linen shirts were standing neatly at the door, reciting the Tao Te Ching over and over again. Zhang Feng did not care about anything, directly shouting outside the door, "Student Zhang Feng greets several teachers." When the few people heard this, they suddenly burst into laughter again. You see, we were just talking about this kid, and he came. Come in, the door is not locked. When Zhang Feng saw this, he pushed open the door. As soon as he entered the room, he saw that on the screen in the middle of the room, there was a piece of writing that had just been done, the ink had not yet dried. This was the poem that Zhang Feng made last night. Yu Shinan pointed to the poem on the screen and said, "This was written by you last night?" "Yes, I said it last night, but I did not write it." When he heard this, he asked, "Then how did the people in Jianghu know now, this was also done by you?" Hearing this, Zhang Feng poured out his grievances. "Wronged, this student is wronged. This is all because of those damn people, spreading false information. Yes, it was the three bastards outside the door who eavesdropped and spread it out. When Yu Shinan heard this, he pointed to a futon below, motioning Zhang Feng to sit down. Then he said, "Now, your poem is completely popular. Last night, these three boys relied on your poem to earn 3 beggars' chicken and 10 pounds of braised meat, do you know? My poem is so worthless." Zhang Feng's eyes instantly became round. When Yu Shinan saw this, he laughed and scolded, "So, you think the poem was sold cheap? This was spread from their hands. Do you know how much the second hand earned?" "How much?" 300,000 strings. H-. Even if Zhang Feng had a hunch, he was still shocked by this number. Which nouveau riche wanted to buy this? "Come to me. I don't want more. Even if you give me 100,000, I can make 180 poems for you in one night. Don't be so greedy. Do you think this is a good thing?" When Ouyang Sun saw this, he glared at Zhang Feng and scolded him. In an instant, Zhang Feng immediately put away the greed on his face. "This student understands." Ouyang Sun nodded, "But your poem is excellent. As for the matter of we don't care. You just need to pay attention to the influence. But old man and others give you a piece of advice: stay away from this person, or you won't even know how you died." This woman was so awesome. Zhang Feng didn't know how to ask, so he just nodded. "That's enough. There must be a reason for him to come here. Boy, the old scholar just went to the waterfall. You call him and we'll discuss the friendly match between Chang and University and the Imperial College." "Oh." Zhang Feng behaved like an obedient child. As soon as he went out, he saw the three people at the door and waved his hand. "Go and call the old scholar for me." Then Zhang Feng directly went back to the small bamboo house, regardless of whether they were willing or not. The few of them acted as if they didn't see him. They sipped their tea as they surrounded the piece of calligraphy and commented on it. After a while, the old scholar hurried into the bamboo house. At this time, they sat down reluctantly. After sitting down, Yu Shinan looked at the old scholar and said, "Brother Zihuai, you should tell us about the situation at the foot of the mountain." The old scholar looked at Zhang Feng and said, "I have told Fengzi about the situation at the foot of the mountain yesterday. The current situation is that we can either form our own Kuju team or change the method. Brother Boji and I have discussed it in Chang and University. If it doesn't work, we can use Fengzi's military knowledge. Aren't old you and the others training now? When the time comes, we can call people from their place and win for sure." Yu Shinan and the others stopped smiling and stroked their beards. After a while, Ouyang Sun said, "Although it seems like there is no problem, military knowledge still belongs to generals and is biased towards our academy. Therefore, the old man thinks that it is better to have a Kuju team. What do you think? Didn't you just compose a poem last night? We are all Confucian scholars. Why don't we compete in poetry?" "I think so. His talent in poetry is unparalleled. Moreover, if we can win the Imperial College, Chang and University, and our White Deer College's reputation will soar again." The few of them discussed heatedly. On the contrary, Zhang Feng felt that he had come to the wrong place. "Once you've discussed this matter, just let me know and it'll be fine. Do you want me to sit here and listen to you argue? Do you have to?" Chapter 850. The discussion was lively and lively. He had even made proper arrangements for the aftermath of the victory. Zhang Feng finally couldn't listen to it anymore. He asked weakly, "May I ask, respected teachers, do you only need me for this friendly competition?" This question was out of the question. Everyone's fantasies were instantly shattered. After exchanging glances with each other, they coughed and returned to their seats. "By the way, Fengzi, why didn't you mention this earlier? Why don't you tell me your thoughts?" Yu Shinan pretended as if nothing had happened and asked while sipping his tea. Zhang Feng rolled his eyes and said, "I will listen to the arrangements of my respected teachers." The old scholar frowned slightly when he heard this. "Tell me, if poetry is not good enough, you can only participate in the mid-autumn hunt by playing Kuju. However, this mid-autumn hunt is significant. If we lose, Chang and University will forever be inferior to Imperial College in Chang and Zhang Feng heard this and couldn't help but ask, what if we don't participate in the mid-autumn hunt? Don't participate? This is organized by the Imperial College. It is held twice a year. If we don't participate, we won't have the chance to participate in the Imperial examination after graduation. Do you think we can refuse? The old scholar explained to Zhang Feng in detail. Finally, Zhang Feng recalled the origin of the mid-autumn hunt in his mind. He couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. The students made it clear that the Imperial College wanted to intimidate Chang and University. What were they doing? This was a slap in the face. Once Chang and University lost, White Deer College's reputation would also be damaged. Now, Zhang Feng could only participate in the competition. However, he couldn't even find a Kuja team. What could he do? Are you sure you can't find a Kuja team now? Zhang Feng asked again. If I can find one, why would I come to you? Zhang Feng couldn't help but rub his chin. This time, the Imperial College was obviously targeting Zhang Feng. After all, Zhang Feng had been in the limelight recently. Why couldn't the Kuja team find him? Not necessarily. Why don't we form our own Kuja team? Zhang Feng said indifferently. But the moment he said that, Yu Shinan instantly extinguished his thoughts. No, Kuju is just a form of entertainment. Moreover, it costs a lot of money and time. White Deer College is going to open in less than a month. Where would we find the time? Besides, the mid-autumn hunt is only 10 days away. Once the mid-autumn hunt ends, it will be the mid-autumn hunt poetry meet. Others may have the time, but where would you find the time? Zhang Feng shrugged. Then there's nothing I can do. It was really impossible to form a team in 10 days. Not to mention other things, he had seen Kuju in the Tang dynasty. It was simply a group fight. How was it football? They couldn't help but fall into deep thought again. But they were also annoyed. They just looked at Zhang Feng without saying a word. Zhang Feng couldn't sit still anymore. Why are you looking at me? Why are we looking at you? Yu Shinan glanced at Zhang Feng. Chang and University is yours. This White Deer College is also yours. Now that we're helping you think of a solution, you're just sitting there pretending to be a master. No. I'm innocent. I'm really innocent. You and the other teachers can help me. Why do I need to say anything? Zhang Feng complained. But would Yu Shinan let him go? In the end, the old scholar coughed. All right, we're already so old. Fengzi, tell us your opinion. After all, you have a lot of practical ideas. Zhang Feng lowered his head. He lit a cigarette and said, actually, I do have a solution. Old elementary scholar, let me ask you, this hunt is compulsory, isn't it? The old scholar nodded. Zhang Feng asked again, if I don't choose Kuju or other sports, can I choose other sports? This, the old scholar couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive. You can, but you have to report it in advance. If the Imperial College accepts it, then the Ministry of Works will naturally allow it. Hearing the old scholar's words, Zhang Feng's mood instantly calmed down. If that was the case, then it would be easy. He had no way of starting a football team, but he did have a way to teach his younger brother how to play basketball within 10 days. And this included making a basketball. Now that he had rubber, it wouldn't be difficult to make a basketball. As long as he handed it over to Arkanon, it would be a piece of cake. In that case, even if there were only 8 days left, he could train him in a short time. The most important thing was that there was no such thing in the Tang dynasty. That was why Zhang Feng was confident that he could start a basketball team in such a short time. After 3 days of training, even a fool would know how to throw a ball into a basket. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng blew out a smoke ring and said, if that's the case, I do have a plan. I don't know if it will work. Tell me about it. The old scholar didn't dare to trust Zhang Feng too much. This kid was born in the year of the donkey. If he didn't pay attention, he would cause big trouble. Chapter 851. Yu Shinan and the others did the same. Seeing this, Zhang Feng sighed inwardly that he had met the wrong person. He then said, "Actually, this matter is very simple. My former teacher once told me about something called basketball. This thing, wait, what did you say? Basketball? What's that?" Zhang Feng had a headache. How should he explain to these people what basketball was? He thought about it and said, "It's not easy for me to explain it to you now. However, if you believe me, Chang and University will definitely win this mid-autumn hunt. That's enough. How about it?" They looked at each other. In the end, it was Ouyang Sun who made the final conclusion. "We don't care what you're up to. However, we have to check it out in 5 days. Otherwise, we won't be confident." Zhang Feng shook his head. "Okay, then in 5 days, I'll invite you all down the mountain to watch a basketball game. However, I have a problem now. I hope you can help me." The biggest problem was solved. Yu Shinan laughed and scolded, "I knew you wouldn't come here for no reason. Tell me, is it because of these 3 students who were eavesdropping on you?" Zhang Feng nodded, and then said with deep hatred, "There are only 3 types of people who are the most ruthless in a student's life. The first type is those who specialize in stealing from others, and the second type is those who talk nonsense behind others' backs. That is the kind of people who are lazy and only talk nonsense. Therefore, I have just set 13 academy precepts. Later, Du Dabing will bring it over for all of you to review and revise. As for these people, I think it's best to expel them from the mountain." Ouyang Sun frowned slightly. "Isn't that a bad idea? White Deer College's reputation has just been established. If we expel them now, it will damage the reputation of the college." "No." Zhang Feng shook his head decisively. "These black sheep should be alerted to the fact that White Deer College provides free education. However, it doesn't mean that the college will accept anyone. Therefore, this student believes that it's best to expel him from this place." Zhang Feng's words were so convincing. The few of them didn't say anything. In the end, the old scholar asked worriedly, "What is the purpose of this? You couldn't have chased him down the mountain out of anger, could you?" Hearing this, Yu Shinan and the others couldn't help but look at Zhang Feng. Last night, they didn't need to think to know what Zhang Feng was doing in the room. They were all experienced people, so how could they not know? However, these few unlucky fellows just had to pretend at this time. Not only did they bump into Zhang Feng, but they also read out Zhang Feng's poem. This was the most important thing. Otherwise, if it was in the past, the commotion caused at this time would have made this brat laugh until his mouth was about to reach his ears. How could he fly into a rage out of humiliation? "No, I've thought about this for a long time." Zhang Feng shook his head. Currently, the construction of the college is about to be completed. With less work to do, these people have more ideas. Therefore, there are more people who have crooked thoughts. Therefore, it's time to rectify the atmosphere. Otherwise, they will really think that White Deer College has no rules at all. How can we manage them in the future?" Yu Shinan praised as he stroked his beard. "You've finally remembered what you wanted to do. I thought you would need some time to remember what you were doing." Zhang Feng's face stiffened. "I didn't think of this before. I'm so busy." "Busy?" Ouyang Sun laughed. "I think you're not doing your job properly. Moreover, don't think that old man doesn't know that you've selected some people. This is the most important thing. You ignored the thousands of students on the mountain and went to take care of those little fellows. It would be strange if nothing happened. The students only know that the consequences are serious now. To be honest, it's too late. Unless you treat everyone equally. Isn't the purpose of your school to treat everyone equally? Why, now you know the difference in treatment." How could Zhang Feng not know that Ouyang Sun was mocking him? He had indeed said such things before. However, when did this happen? Zhang Feng simply repeated what he had said to Li Qingxian and the others, especially the key point of why there was such a difference in treatment. Kid, the reason for the difference in treatment is mainly because there are too many monks on the mountain and not enough gruel. There are thousands of students, but there are only 4 of you as teachers. Even with me, it's not enough. So? Yu Shinan nodded and asked. Zhang Feng continued, so my idea is to first select a few outstanding people from these people and undergo the first step of training. Then, let these people lead the next batch of people, and then the next batch of people will lead the new people. In this way, the old students can also review the old and learn new things, and the teachers and the others can also relax a little. Otherwise, the academy won't be able to operate normally in the future. This was Zhang Feng's further improvement of the class division system in the Tang dynasty. It was also called the batch system. It was easy to run an academy, but it was inevitable that there would be some people with a foundation among these people. If they were put together, would they be taught how to read? Or what to teach them? Neither side was willing to do so. Therefore, in the end, Zhang Feng could only come up with such a clever idea. After the establishment of Chang and University, Zhang Feng once talked about the 6 principles. However, because of the establishment of the Science and Technology Department, he put this matter aside. Now that he mentioned it, the old scholar suddenly understood and said, that's right. Feng Zi once said this set of principles when he first opened Chang and University. Brother Bashi, think about it carefully. I once said it. Yu Shinan and the others couldn't help but frown slightly. Are you talking about that? Chapter 852. The old scholar nodded and said, yes, it's the class system I told you about before. But later, this kid basically didn't care about Chang and University anymore. Besides, Brother Boji also resigned from the position of Crown Prince's master and came to Chang and University, so I didn't mention it. If Fengzi didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it. Hearing that, it took Yu Shinan and the others a long time before they finally remembered what the old scholar had told them in his letter. They frowned again and pondered for a long time. Yu Shinan smiled and said, old guys, this kid dislikes us for eating on the mountain and not working. Zhang Feng was shocked when he heard that. He was wronged. This was a great injustice. Master, you must be joking. Even if you asked me to serve you for a lifetime, it would be my honor. Come on, we're just kidding. Chu Suiliang looked at Zhang Feng with a smile and said, however, you brat, are you really planning to raise us like pigs? If we don't do something when we're provided with good food and drink every day, won't we be sneered at by others? All right, leave the matters on the mountain to us. As for the later matters, such as the printing of books, you don't have to worry about them. We'll naturally look for you when we need you. For the time being, you just have to settle the matters of the autumn hunt. Zhang Feng heard that and breathed a deep sigh of relief. I understand. Well, since things are clear, kid, send a jar of white wine here. Let's discuss this matter carefully. There's no white wine. Zhang Feng waved his hand repeatedly. You still want to lie to us? If Brother Zihui didn't come yesterday, you were going to eat it alone? Zhang Feng shouted that he was wronged. But it didn't help. Finally, he gritted his teeth and nodded. Well, okay. Then I'll leave first. While speaking, Zhang Feng left in a huff. After Zhang Feng left, Chu Suiliang held his big belly and said, I told you this kid was hiding something, right? You don't believe me? Ha ha ha, this brat is really crafty. The old scholar opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. After the few of them joked around for a while, Yu Shinan said with a serious expression, everyone, now that you know the situation on the mountain and at the foot of the mountain, it is not reliable. However, there are some good people in charge of external affairs, so the rest will have to depend on the few of us for the time being. I think that we should get those few brats to come over first and start teaching from tomorrow onwards. It's okay to teach, but the key is how to teach. The new building of the academy is not ready yet. We can't teach in the open air, right? Seeing this, they couldn't help but put away the smiles on their faces, and their expressions became serious. If it doesn't work, we really need to teach in the wild. Otherwise, there won't be anything to do on the mountain. Once people are free, they will stir up trouble. Once they stir up trouble, the mountain will be in chaos. Once chaos happens, things will happen. Ouyang Sun frowned and continued, however, it's also okay to teach in the wild. After all, Confucius used to teach outside often. If you don't have any objections, old man will send someone to pass on the message now. Tomorrow morning, will it officially start? Wait a moment. Chu Suiliang waved his hand and said, teaching is teaching, but where and how to teach needs to be decided first. Brother Zihui, don't just sit there. Tell us about the teaching philosophy of Chang and University, and we can discuss going down the mountain to report the situation. Hearing this, the old scholar raised his eyelids and said, Fengzi, I leave the things on the mountain to you. Of course, I have no right to say anything. Hearing this, Yu Shinan laughed and said, look, Brother Zihui is crying out for that brat. Come on, Brother Zihui, we were just joking with that brat. You took it seriously? It's really. Let's drop this matter for now. Let's talk about this matter first. What do you think? Teaching was a matter of great importance. Once there was a problem, it would be a big problem. In this way, although the teaching did not pay attention to bathing and burning incense, the basic ceremony was still necessary. But at this time, everything in the academy was not ready, so it was useless to say more. This was the biggest problem. Although the old scholar was dissatisfied with their approach, he also knew the importance of this matter. He could not help stroking his beard and thinking for a while, then slowly said, I just saw the waterfall. It's a good place. The meaning of the jujube tree is good, and the gurgling water is quite poetic. In ancient times, Confucius and Meng taught under the jujube tree. Today, the four great Confucians will teach under the jujube tree. Yu Shinan and the others at this time looked a little confused. In their inherent thinking, didn't the teaching need to be in a clean room? Now, what kind of teaching was this? Sun Simiao, who had been speaking up for them, said faintly, in fact, you all pay too much attention to things that look good on the outside. An old farmer in the field teaching a skill to a young child is also teaching. A cook chopping firewood and carrying water in the kitchen is also teaching a skill. An old cow plowing the land and following the calves is also teaching. Why should we care about appearances? Hearing this, Yu Shinan and the others could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. Sun Simiao reminded them in an instant. Involuntarily, Jika nodded with some guilt and said, Brother Sun is right. We pay too much attention to these things of Su Hua. Let's go, old guys. Since we became great Confucians, we have been away for a long time. Chapter 853. After Zhang Feng threw all the matters of Shao Mountain to Yu Shinan and the others, he looked around and saw Ma Zhou not far away, holding a big bloody basin and washing it by the river. A group of children were downstream of Ma Zhou, fighting for the things that Ma Zhou had thrown away. Zhang Feng couldn't help but remember something important. Ma Zhou. Zhang Feng called from afar. In an instant, Ma Zhou was stunned. He hurriedly threw down the basin and ran over. Teacher, are you looking for me? Zhang Feng nodded and pointed in the direction of the pig farm. Let's go, let's talk while we walk. Now, how's the matter of slaughtering pigs? When asked about this matter, Ma Zhou's face showed an extremely excited expression. Teacher, I haven't been to the pig farm for some time. Previously, old Gao, Butcher Zheng, and I selected a few unusually active breeding pigs and bred them successfully. At present, most of the remaining pigs have been slaughtered. Then how's the situation? I'm asking about the mortality rate and survival rate. Zhang Feng nodded and asked. When asked about this, Ma Zhou became even more excited. I'm thinking of reporting this matter to you when I teach next time. At present, the mortality rate is basically from an average of 30 out of 100 deaths. But now, it's less than 10. Moreover, after these pigs were deleted, they are not as active as before. They eat and sleep every day. Instead, they are fatter than those pigs. Half a month ago, old Gao took a litter of full-term pigs and tested it. He found that these pigs, after being fed with the feed prepared by old Sun, increased their weight to about 90 pounds in half a month. This really made Ma Zhou excited. Previously, when he was asked to slaughter pigs, Ma Zhou was really unwilling. If it weren't for Zhang Feng's private teaching every 3 days, he wouldn't have been willing to do it. How could a student raise pigs? Moreover, his students had been ridiculed by the students on the mountain. They smelled of pig shit. However, slowly, Ma Zhou also discovered the magic of Zhang Feng and the joy of raising pigs. Every day, he would record the growth, eating, and sleeping status of the pigs. That was not all. Every day, when he weighed the pigs, that was what excited him the most. As long as he saw a pig getting thinner, he would stop eating and thinking about why the pig got thinner. How could he not feel a sense of accomplishment when he saw a pig gaining weight by an average of 1 kg every day? The most important thing was that the pig meat that the shops and food factories were eating on the mountain and at the foot of the mountain were all made by him, which gave him an inexplicable sense of achievement. As Zhang Feng listened to Ma Zhou's nagging, he couldn't help but look at this guy in doubt. This guy was really born with the appearance of a pig farmer. It seemed that he had found the right person to raise pigs. Ma Zhou, let me ask you something. Answer me honestly. Zhang Feng interrupted Ma Zhou's nagging as if he was presenting a treasure. Do you only slaughter the toothed pigs, or do you slaughter them together with the sows? Ma Zhou heard and was a little confused. The sows need to give birth, but Butcher Zheng on the mountain refused to let us slaughter them. Old Gao also said that there was no need. Who said so? Zhang Feng asked and then pointed at the door of the pig farm. The two of them then entered Ma Zhou's room on the second floor. Before the two of them sat down, Butcher Zheng brought his son and old Gao, whose hands were covered in blood, up to the second floor. Ayaya, Fengzi, why didn't you tell us that you were coming? We should at least clean up this place. Look at this mess. Clean up, clean up. Butcher Zheng hurriedly cleaned up the room and kicked Xiaohu Zheng. Why aren't you making tea for your brother Fengzi? No need, I just passed by here to take a look. By the way, Xiaohu, I think the academy will officially start teaching tomorrow. You should go too. Don't always deal with the pigs. Butcher Zheng's face trembled. He hurriedly asked in a trembling voice, Fengzi, you said Xiaohu can go too. Didn't I say it before? I want Xiaohu to become the best butcher in the Tang dynasty. I will do what I say, but you let him stay here all day. That's your fault. How can he be successful like this? Butcher Zheng was overjoyed. He kicked Xiaohu Zheng's butt and roared, why aren't you kowtowing to your brother Fengzi? No, your teacher. Xiaohu Zheng knelt down with a thud. Zhang Feng was speechless. Get up. I said that kneeling in the academy is not allowed. This is the last time. Butcher Zheng, I told you last time to help at the foot of the mountain. Why did you go up the mountain again? Hearing that, Zheng Tufu pointed at the dense swarm of pigs on the back mountain outside and said, isn't it because we can't fit all these pigs? I'm always worried about letting this brat and Ma Zhou herd the pigs. Besides, I'm worried about leaving Elder Gao here alone. Butcher Zheng had worked with pigs all his life. Although the food factory was very suitable, there were too many butchers there. It didn't matter if he was there or not. However, it was different on the mountain. Nothing here could do without him. Pigs, cows, sheep, chickens, ducks, which one of them didn't need him to take care of? He wouldn't be at ease if he left it to an outsider. Zhang Feng stared into Butcher Zheng's eyes. Seeing that he sincerely wanted to stay on the mountain, he took out a feed formula from his chest and said, well, since you like dealing with pigs, cows, and sheep so much, I'll give you an important task now. Zhang Feng pointed at a piece of paper and said, this is the feed formula list. You just need to mix it according to the ratio. Now, leave the things here to Elder Gao. I'll arrange for someone to deal with it. You go to Chang'an and open a feed factory as fast as you can. As for the rest, you can go to Ligan and ask him to deal with it for you. Then, I heard that the pigs in the other prefectures are being fed according to our method, but it's not a good idea to keep eating. Since you know how to feed pigs, do you want to go to the other prefectures of the Great Tang? Chapter 854. Hearing this, Zheng Tufu's eyes turned red. His breathing became a little hurried. Fengzi, why do you have to be like this? These things are all for your future. Just take it. We're all neighbors of Tong Huifang. When you're rich, will you forget about me? There's a saying that when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs will ascend to heaven. Now that they all have things to do, and you're still here, I'm a little worried. Moreover, I'm not at ease leaving the pigs matter to others, so I can only leave it to you. Old Zheng, don't decline anymore. If you decline again, my family will be jealous. Old Gao said with a faint smile. Hearing this, Zheng Tufu took the paper from Zhang Feng's hand and treated it like a treasure. Seeing this, Old Gao burst out laughing. Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, "All right, go and tell your family about this now. Your family members are taking good care of the chickens and ducks, so let them continue to take care of the chickens and ducks on the mountain. When the time comes and you've established a foothold at the foot of the mountain, take them over. I won't help you support your family anymore." Hearing this, Zheng Tufu took a deep breath, smacked his lips, and bowed deeply. He pulled Jing Xiaohu's ear and left. After he left, Zhang Feng looked at Old Gao and asked with a smile, "I've given him all the good things. Old Gao, don't you have anything to say?" Old Gao shrugged and pointed at Zhang Feng's ear, "Don't break this thing for me. There's also wine and meat. Otherwise, one night I'll have to take a knife and sit in your room for an entire night." Hearing this, Zhang Feng instantly felt a chill in his crotch. Hee, Old Gao, you really know how to joke. How can I leave you out of this? While speaking, Zhang Feng hurriedly took out a wooden box from his bosom and stuffed it into Old Gao's hand. Then he said, "The matter on this mountain is very important. Old Gao, what do you think after these pigs are killed?" "What can I think? There are a few young eunuchs under my command who want to follow me. If you have a way, tell Lao Li and have him bring them out of the palace for me. It's fine as long as they stay by my side. It's hard in the palace. Would looking for Lao Li work?" Zhang Feng was very suspicious. However, he still nodded. "I'll inform Lao Li about this matter later. With Lao Li's current connections, a few eunuchs shouldn't be a problem." When Elder Gao heard this, he nodded in satisfaction. "When the matters here are settled, don't worry, old man won't go anywhere. If you want me to stay, I'll stay on the mountain to look after the pig farm for you. As for my subordinates, I plan to let them follow old Zheng. You also know that other than this mountain, the pigs in other places haven't been butchered yet. So, this is an industry, a skill that can fill their stomachs. You don't have any objections, right?" What opinion could Zhang Feng have? In this era, who would be willing to enter the palace and become a eunuch if they had the slightest means? It was only because their families were so poor that they couldn't afford to eat that they sold their children. The fact that Old Gao was still thinking about the eunuchs in the palace while he was here undoubtedly made Zhang Feng feel a little touched. "Don't worry, you can discuss this matter with Tufu Zheng. I, Zhang Feng, won't take a single share of the profits from this matter." "How can that be?" Old Gao was unhappy, however, Zhang Feng insisted. This kind of money couldn't be touched. After that, Zhang Feng said, "Old Gao, let me ask you, how many sows are pregnant with piglets on the mountain now? I mean, how many sows are selected from the best breeds?" Without thinking, Old Gao stretched out his hand and slapped him. 50. "Good. These 50 pigs, I hope you can rear them in another pen and then select a batch of the best breeds from these pigs. After 3 generations, the stench on the breeding pigs will be completely gone. Moreover, at that time, if they are still fed according to the feed, they will grow to be 200 catties fat pigs in 3 months. Old Gao was a little doubtful about whether there was something wrong with his ears. 3 months? 200 catties? Now, if the situation on the mountain was normal, they could reach 200 catties in half a year. This was already an auspicious sign from the heavens. In these 3 months, what was that? Then, without waiting for old Gao to speak, Zhang Feng continued, what I mean is that all the piglets that have been slaughtered on the mountain now are sold to the public. This new breed of pig will all be pushed out. In this way, the market for feed and pork, as well as the importance of pork, will be opened up. Zhang Feng's words instantly shocked old Gao. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about this matter, but he hadn't figured out how to do it. The sales of pork in Chang and city were improving day by day. Even the rich families had accepted this kind of pork. This was all the formula that relied on Zhang Feng's magical herbs. But now, was Zhang Feng going to make this matter public? At this moment, Ma Zhou was completely stunned. Ever since Zhang Feng asked Jing Tufu to get the feed, he had guessed that Zhang Feng might be up to something big. But at this moment, Zhang Feng's words still gave him a big shock. Old Gao said worriedly, if we do this, then these pigs will have nothing to do with us anymore. Zhang Feng was a little speechless. Why? Do you really want White Deer College to take down the pig farm? Chapter 855. Actually, there was no need for the pig farm on the mountain to continue. The main reason why it was still being kept was to cultivate excellent breeds. Moreover, the people from Quanan had seen these hundreds of thousands of pigs being driven up the mountain. If they were not given an explanation and continued to drive them away, where would Zhang Feng put his face? This was the most important thing. However, the most important thing that made Zhang Feng determined was the mid-autumn hunt. The mid-autumn hunt was usually held in the royal forest in the Qinling Mountains. However, due to the locust plague this year, there was no one in the forest. Zhang Feng was certain that the mid-autumn hunt this time would most likely be held in the Blue Sky Jade Mountain, which was near Mount Shao. As for Jade Mountain, Yulifei Mountain was relatively closer. When the time came, he just needed to invite these people to the food factory on the mountain. Hee. Regardless of whether they were from the Ministry of Works or the Ministry of Rights, if they could resist Lao Tzu's culinary skills, it would be his loss. At this time, after eating and drinking, would the pork and pig's gizzards be a problem? That was what Zhang Feng wanted to do the most. Whose money was the easiest to earn? The emperor's money. Who had more money than the emperor? In addition, the emperor had already made a lot of money from the cooperative this time. If he did not take the opportunity to earn some money, he would be letting down Zhang Feng's cooperative. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng could not help but laugh. Cough, cough. Ma Zhou saw old Gao laughing while looking at Zhang Feng. Ma Zhou also wanted to laugh, but he did not dare to. He could only remind Zhang Feng to stop laughing. At this time, Zhang Feng also realized that he had lost his composure. He touched his nose and said, sorry, I was distracted. Let's get back to the topic. Old Gao, the farm on the mountain will definitely be closed in the future. However, I will set up an experimental base here to breed new breeds of pigs and other things. So, if you are interested, I will have to trouble you to help me. Experimental base? Old Gao was a little confused and asked, is it the same thing as this new breed of pig we're making now? Zhang Feng nodded and then shook his head. Not exactly. Other than pigs, I will also have people bring in some plants from the outer realms. For example, a new type of corn and other things. Corn, also known as millet. The rice of this era. They were basically called millet. As for this thing, it tasted, hee. However, it was still too early to talk about these things. It was just drawing a big picture. The truth was to keep people here. As for old Gao, he could survive in such a complicated place like the palace. He had no problems with interpersonal relationships and management. Zhang Feng was relieved to leave this place to him. However, this was not the main point. The main point was that Zhang Feng wanted to keep Ma Zhou in this experimental base. That week, he was very meticulous. Very suitable for this job. Zhang Feng looked at Ma Zhou and said, Ma Zhou, what do you plan to do in the future? The pig will definitely not let you raise it. You've seen it for yourself. Have you thought about what you'll do in the future? Ma Zhou did not even have to think about it. He said, take the imperial examination and become an official in the imperial court. Good ambition. However, do you really think that you can only learn things by becoming an official in the imperial court? This time, Ma Zhou was really asked the right question. In his understanding, as well as most people's understanding, becoming an official in the imperial court and passing the imperial examination were important things that could change their fate. Nothing could make them rise to prominence in one step more than this. Zhang Feng pressed him step by step. Are you sure this is what you want? Zhang Feng's question really stumped Ma Zhou. People have to have a goal in life. However, if everyone wants to pass the imperial examination and become an official in the imperial court, think about it. In this world, how many people can really pass the imperial examination? There are people who spend their entire lives fighting for this dream even when they are old. They even forget that they live in straw huts and eat, so, although I'm confident that you can pass the imperial examination in 3 years, what do you want to do after high school? Look at Dr. Sunday. He didn't become an official in the imperial court. Look at his achievements now. Even the emperor has to stand up to greet him. Did he choose to become an official in the imperial court? No. Passing the imperial examination is just a hope for you now. When you achieve it, what do you want to do? Ma Zhou's heart suddenly became cold. He hurriedly bowed and said, Master, please enlighten me. Looking at Zhang Feng, Gao could not help narrowing his eyes slightly. At this time, Zhang Feng's words became more and more incomprehensible. Was this why the emperor and the crown prince were attracted to him? Zhang Feng continued, sit down. After Ma Zhou sat down, Zhang Feng said, people always need a goal. At this time, passing the imperial examination is your current goal. But before you achieve this goal, what do you want to do? What are you going to do after you achieve it? Hearing this, Ma Zhou thought for a moment and said, before the imperial examination in 3 years, I will listen to your arrangement. I will do whatever you ask me to do. Zhang Feng frowned slightly. I'm asking your own opinion. I don't need you to read it out. Hearing this, Ma Zhou hurriedly wanted to get up, but he was pressed down by Zhang Feng. Master, in fact, I think it's quite good now. I like it very much. I just heard that you want to build an experimental base here. I want to stay in the experimental base. Hao Chujun and others have things to do now. Chen Tiniu and others also have things to do. Even the students in the paper mill are working. If I leave here, I really don't know what to do. The most important thing is that I like this way of life. I'm already enjoying watching the growth of pigs every day. Gao was a little shocked when he heard this. Was this place so good? It smelled of pig dung. How was it good? Was this what a decent person should do? But Zhang Feng's eyes lit up when he heard this. It seemed that he was not wrong about Ma Zhou. This time, ever since it was recorded in history that after raising a horse, he really had a strange hobby. Good, very good. Zhang Feng patted Ma Zhou's shoulder and said, actually, I plan to build a research institute on the mountain. The dynamics, air resistance, atmospheric pressure, and so on that I asked you to learn, as well as the multiplication and division problems, are all preparations for the research institute in the future. And this place is naturally part of the research institute. When we were on the way here, I felt that you were suitable for botany and zoology. Now it seems that you are really suitable. Don't worry, from today onwards, as long as you work hard enough, I will definitely nurture you within 3 years. At that time, even if I, Zhang Feng, have to throw away my face, I will have elder son teach you how to differentiate between plants and their characteristics. At that time, when you become a high scholar, I will naturally have more important things for you. Ma Zhou. As he spoke, Zhang Feng's expression turned serious. Are you willing to become someone who surpasses elder son? Ma Zhou did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly bowed. I am willing. Chapter 856. Ma Zhou was very excited. Finally, the day of his success had arrived. Ma Zhou was very poor when he was young. He didn't even have enough food to eat. The reason why he wanted to participate in the imperial examination was because of his obsession. Only by doing so could he be considered outstanding. However, Zhang Feng's words just now seemed to have opened the door to another world for Ma Zhou. Ma Zhou's eyes instantly lit up. What about after high school? After achieving his wish, what did he want to do? He really didn't think about it. At this time, Zhang Feng's words woke him up from his dream. Ma Zhou couldn't help but have the urge to cry. Previously, when Zhang Feng taught them aerodynamics and other things that they couldn't understand, Ma Zhou listened very seriously. However, he was also calculating in his heart. This thing seemed profound, but it was completely different from what he needed. But now, Zhang Feng's words, especially that research institute, made Ma Zhou see the light. He didn't expect to surpass Dr. Sun's achievements in the future. As long as he could achieve the same achievements as Dr. Sun, it didn't matter if he didn't take the imperial examination. Zhang Feng also bowed to Ma Zhou and then said slowly, "Let's go. Since it's decided, I'm also in the mood today. I'll bring you to broaden your horizons. Don't always live in your own world." Ma Zhou heard this and bowed again. Then, he stood behind Zhang Feng without looking sideways. His goal was finally achieved. Zhang Feng didn't stay any longer. After all, the smell of pig dung here wasn't just a little strong. It was a little pungent. "Old Gao, that kid will come to see you another day. I'll take my leave first." Old Gao also stood up and cupped his hands. "This old man can eat and drink well here. There's no need to worry. You can go do your own things." Out of the pig farm. Zhang Feng instantly felt refreshed. The matter of the pig farm had already been discussed by some people. Moreover, it was to provide a full meal for the people on the mountain. Now, with the consumption of the food processing factory, the pigs on the mountain would be exhausted one day. At that time, what would happen? This question, Zhang Feng didn't even need to think about. Throw them all out. In the future, no one would bring up the 300,000 pigs again. Not only would he be at a disadvantage during the mid-autumn hunt, but he would also lose face during the mid-autumn poetry meet. What is a pig? No matter which era it was, this thing was synonymous with despicable. Therefore, Zhang Feng was in a hurry to finish the piggery before the mid-autumn hunt. And the most important thing was to trick Ma Zhou into staying here. That was the most important thing. Other than Ma Zhou, no one else could do it. The main thing was that he was not as meticulous as Ma Zhou. Zhang Feng clasped his hands behind his back and hummed a song. Ma Zhou followed closely behind Zhang Feng like a lackey. Just like that, the two of them followed the mountain stream and arrived at the workshop. At this moment, in the forging workshop. Because he knew that Zhang Feng was trying to goad him. His appearance had changed drastically. Under Zhang Feng's strong request, the guards here had been driven away. The shackles on these people were all thrown into the furnace. Even the workshop, which was only 100 square meters, was excavated by these people. They used wood to extend more than half of the area on the edge of the cliff. Smelting furnaces made of earth were built along the mountain wall. Some people even used bamboo to lead the water from the mountain stream to the workshop. Seeing this scene, Zhang Feng wished that Shintinu and the other lazy guys didn't come to see it. Even the people from the western regions could think of it, and they had even learned the sharp irrigation method that he had personally taught countless times. How could any of them learn it? This was simply, the arrival of the two of them made the blacksmiths from the western region scream. They seemed to be reporting, but also seemed to be on guard. After all, the things that Zhang Feng had said and done had made them worried and excited. They hadn't seen Zhang Feng for a few days. Now that they saw him again, they were a little worried. Mokido and Arkanon hurried out of the cave when they heard the news. Except for their eyes, their bodies were pitch black, as if they had drilled into a coal mine. When they saw Zhang Feng and Ma Zhou, but did not see Niu Jinda and the others behind Zhang Feng, they heaved a deep sigh of relief. They turned around and shouted a few times. Then, the crowd gradually quieted down. The two of them ran towards Zhang Feng. "Honorable Dean, are you here to inspect? Ha ha ha, no, no. I'm just here to take a look. You guys go ahead. Don't mind me. Zhang Feng waved at the crowd in the distance. Then, he pointed at the rocks outside the workshop and sat down. What are you two doing? Why do you look like this? After walking closer, Zhang Feng saw that the two of them had curly hair that resembled the hair of a golden lion king. It had long been burnt yellow by the smoke, and there were even some bumps and hollows due to the fire sparks. Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other. Arkanon then said, it was because of the smelting that Mr. Dean mentioned. There were a few mishaps. The furnace exploded 3 times and the fire was extinguished 5 times. In the end, the two of us dug a cave in the mountain wall and prepared to test the power of the fire in the cave to see if it could be improved to a higher level. Otherwise, with the current temperature of the fire, let alone the steel that you mentioned, we can't even smelt fine iron. Unable to condense high temperature? Zhang Feng frowned slightly. That's impossible. In his previous life, he often watched the live broadcasts of those awesome outdoor people. Didn't those awesome people smelt like this? This, Zhang Feng seemed to have thought of something. He waved his hand and said, let's go take a look at your furnaces first. Chapter 857. Seeing this, the two of them hurriedly got up and led Zhang Feng into the workshop. It was early July now, and although it was not as hot as before, the temperature in the workshop was extremely high. From a distance, there seemed to be only 10 strange forging furnaces burning red in the workshop. However, as soon as Zhang Feng walked in, he realized that the forging furnaces that Old Li and the rest had brought over had been dismantled by these people, and there was nothing left of them. In the place where the mountain wall used to be, there was a furnace about 6 meters tall. At this moment, a few Western regioners, who were only wearing loincloths, were desperately filling it with charcoal. Arkanon and Makoko led Zhang Feng around these people and entered a natural cave that was only 10 meters deep. Everyone looked at Zhang Feng. Although they were not vigilant, they did not pay any attention to him either. It was as if Zhang Feng was invisible. Zhang Feng did not care about this. He followed Arkanon and Makoko into the expanded cave. As soon as they entered the cave, a wave of heat almost made Zhang Feng faint. More importantly, there was a smell of cumin, which was unique to the Western regioners. Zhang Feng resisted this strange smell and frowned slightly as he looked at the furnace that was dug out by hand from the mountain wall. This furnace was ventilated using both ears. However, in this enclosed environment, there was no way to vent. The fire could not be concentrated at all. Be careful, Mr. Dean. The molten iron will be ready soon. Please stand back and wait for me to release the molten iron for you to see. While speaking, Arkanon and Mokido talked for a while. Then, Arkanon picked up a small iron hammer and an iron rod and fiercely hammered a few times at the bottom of the furnace that was covered in mud. As the hammer fell, the area was filled with a scarlet light. Makoko shouted in a low voice, "Be careful, Mr. Dean. Open the furnace." Clang! Algernon swung his hammer down. Drops of crimson liquid flowed out from the cracks created by the iron rod. Once the crimson liquid came into contact with the ground, a sizzling sound could be heard. Mokido hurriedly picked up a hoe and dug a trench in the ground to guide the molten iron to flow out. Although the furnace looked very big. However, there was very little molten iron. Not long after, the molten iron flowed out of the mountain, and the molten iron stopped dripping from the furnace. Only then did Arjunon order the others to bring buckets of water and pour it on the ground around the molten iron. In an instant, pitch-black smoke mixed with the smell of iron filled the entire smelting workshop. Zhang Feng couldn't take it anymore. Covering his mouth and nose, he hurriedly fled the workshop. Ma Zhou was completely dumbfounded. It was his first time coming to this workshop, so how would he know that all the expensive ironware and bronzeware that he usually knew about were produced this way? Not long after, the smoke was blown away by the wind in the valley. Arjunon called for Zhang Feng in the workshop. As soon as he entered the workshop, Arjunon handed a piece of newly smelted iron to Zhang Feng. Mr. Dean, the temperature is still not high enough. This is the kind of steel you mentioned. Zhang Feng frowned slightly. He took out a delicate curved knife from his waist and used the back of the knife to gently cut the palm-sized piece of iron. In an instant, the knife left a mark on the piece of iron that was still a little red. No, this is still iron. Was there a problem with the steps? Zhang Feng couldn't help but remove the videos in his mind. He searched for the physics knowledge he had learned in high school and college, as well as the methods to forge iron. Zhang Feng could not help but slowly figure out the reason. Looking at the charcoal in the corner, Zhang Feng asked, "You've been using this before?" Arjunan nodded. "Is there anything else that can replace this?" Zhang Feng seemed to have realized the problem. He turned around and asked Ma Zhou, "Do you know that the Tang dynasty uses charcoal to forge iron?" Ma Zhou didn't know what Zhang Feng was trying to say, but he still nodded. "Yes, it's charcoal. Go and call Li Gan. I have something to talk to him about." Zhang Feng frowned. After Ma Zhou left in a hurry, Zhang Feng squatted next to a strange smelting furnace on the edge of the cliff, carefully watching a craftsman from the western regions forge. When the charcoal in the furnace burned to a certain degree, the craftsman would put in a few more pieces of charcoal and then take out some of the ashes from the bottom of the furnace. He did this repeatedly without stopping. Zhang Feng pointed at the craftsman and asked, "Do you smelt like this?" "Yes." Both Arjunan and Mokito nodded. Then Mokito said, "I've visited the Tang dynasty before. At that time, it wasn't called the Tang dynasty yet. Although the method of forging in the Tang dynasty is different from mine, they still use the same method. There's no difference." Hearing this, Zhang Feng finally found the crux of the problem. He asked calmly, "Are you sure that the Tang dynasty used this method to smelt iron?" "Yes." Zhang Feng was speechless. No wonder they couldn't forge iron. It would be strange if they could forge iron using this method. In this era, there should have been coal a long time ago. Why didn't they use that thing? Why did they keep the temperature of the flame at a certain point? Smelting is such a simple thing. Why is it so difficult in this era? Chapter 858. Coal. As far as Zhang Feng knew, apart from electricity, it was the best combustion-supporting material that could maintain a constant temperature, apart from natural gas and gas. Zhang Feng would not dare to make it even if it was given to him now. That thing could kill people. Zhang Feng did not say anything else. While waiting for Li Qian, he was also thinking of more ways to smelt steel. There was another way, which was to hammer and smelt. However, there was not enough time. The sword that old Li had promised him had not been delivered yet, and he had not seen the person either. Needless to say, this old man was probably very busy right now. If Zhang Feng couldn't come up with this within a month, then he wouldn't be able to get Emperor Yang's personal sword. Even if old Li gave it to him, he wouldn't be able to do it. This steel was something that he needed now. Especially the gun. After getting the immortal cream, Zhang Feng was eager to make it for self-defense. It was not for anything else but to be safer when he went out in the future. Who knew how many pairs of eyes were watching him from below Shao Mountain? After a while, Li Qingshan arrived at the workshop breathlessly. The moment he entered the workshop, he could not stop wiping his sweat with a handkerchief. As he wiped his sweat, he pulled Zhang Feng and ran out. "Fengzi, let's go. Let's find a cool place. This place is too hot, isn't it?" The five of them left the smithy and instantly felt comfortable all over. Then, Li Qingshan asked, "Why are you looking for me? You made the steel?" Zhang Feng shook his head and asked, "Let me ask you, have you heard of coal?" Li Qingshan looked at Zhang Feng in surprise and nodded. "That's easy. Get some people to get me 10 carts of coal. I need it urgently." Li Qingshan was a little confused. "Fengzi, do you know what that thing is for?" "It's for burning." "What can it do?" Zhang Feng impatiently snatched the handkerchief from Li Qingshan's hand and wiped the black sweat on his forehead. Li Qingshan felt a little heartache, but he couldn't care less. Li Qingshan naturally knew about this coal, but only some people in the palace, as well as some high-ranking officials and dignitaries, could afford to use it. And at this time, where could he go to get it? The weather was so hot, who was going to dig coal for him? The most important thing was that this thing was not called coal now, but stone charcoal. Li Qingxian also guessed some things from the conversation with Ma Zhou on the way. Feng Zi, do you know that not everyone can afford to use this thing? Zhang Feng's face was full of question marks. F***ck, isn't it just a piece of rotten coal? You can't afford it? Li Qingxian felt a headache coming on. He pointed at Ma Zhou and said, you tell him that I'm feeling a little suffocated. Ma Zhou was also a little confused, but since Li Qingxian had spoken, he could only whisper, teacher, this thing, other than those in the palace and the various princes and ministers, there really aren't many people who are qualified to use it. Also, the price of the coal, how much for a cart? Zhang Feng just remembered that this was the Tang dynasty, not the future. In the future, a bag of anthracite only cost 70 yuan, but there were still many people who couldn't afford it. Ma Zhou stretched out 2 fingers and made a peace sign. 2,000 strings of cash for a cart. So expensive? Zhang Feng was also a little surprised. Li Qingxian, how much money do we have in the account now? Is it enough to buy 10 carts? Li Qingxian sighed and looked at Zhang Feng as if he was looking at an idiot. He said 2,000 strings of cash for a stone. And in this kind of weather, unless it's winter, there are no merchants selling this thing at this time. Most importantly, this thing is basically in the hands of the Taiyuan Wang clan now. Even if the emperor wants it, he has to send a letter in advance, 5 surnames and 7 hopes. Zhang Feng's eyelids twitched when he heard this. This was really difficult to deal with. The Guanlong 8 great families controlled the trade routes, and the 5 surnames and 7 hopes controlled all the mineral veins and grain industries in the Tang dynasty. This matter was clearly recorded in history. With a little hint, Zhang Feng instantly understood. However, the matter of steel had already progressed to this point. Wouldn't it be a joke to give up at this time? Moreover, this charcoal was really not good. It could be used to melt glass and other things, but if you want to refine steel, then you have to get coal. Zhang Feng couldn't help but have a headache. He really didn't know that the control of coal mines in the Tang dynasty was so strict. Zhang Feng didn't give up and asked, apart from the Tang dynasty, are there any coal mines in Tubo and Tuyuhun? Yes, but now the situation in Tubo, then immediately ask your people to find a way to get me some coal. Anyway, I'll say it right here. Without coal, let alone a gun, I can't even make a spear that can break through anything. Li Qingxian was shocked. Ma Zhou, Algernon, and Mokido were also shocked at this time. A spear that could break anything? What was that? Also, what was this flamethrower? Could it be that these 2 things that they had never heard of were the things that the dean talked about the other day? They couldn't help but have a trace of fire in their eyes. Chapter 859. Zhang Feng was silent. He was silent for a long time. He also thought for a long time in his mind. If the coal problem was not solved, it would be really difficult to get anything in the future, let alone other things. Zhang Feng looked at Li Qingxian and asked again, is there any way to get me a batch of coal now? It's possible. But this thing, Zhang Feng did not want to listen to his explanation. He patted him on the shoulder with a smile and said, do you want me to give you a gun and let you show off? Yes. How could Li Qingxian not want to? He was about to go crazy thinking about it. It might not be easy to get it from others, but if Zhang Feng gave it away, it would be a different story. Then go and get me 10 carriages of coal. If you can get it for me before tonight, I'll owe you a favor. How about it? Li Qingxian was going crazy at this time. He just nodded no matter what Zhang Feng said. After that, Zhang Feng patted him on the shoulder and said, then why don't you go now? If you can't get it before tonight, I won't even give you a fire stick, let alone a gun. Okay, I'll go now. Li Qingxian left happily. If he wanted 10 carriages of coal, he really did not have it in the Cheng and local treasury. But if he wanted 1 carriage, he could find a little bit of it. Even if his father knew, he would not blame him. After Li Qingxian left, Zhang Feng called Arcanon over again and said, "Actually, there is another way to get the thing I said." Arcanon's eyes lit up when he heard that. He hurried over. "Director, this way is making steel with the earth method." Earth method? Is it a secret of the Tang dynasty? More than 30 craftsmen from the western regions immediately stopped their work and gathered around. Zhang Feng pointed at the forging table on the side, and then picked out 2 relatively strong men from the crowd. He took out a pair of tongs and took out a piece of red-hot, fist-sized iron from the fire. He threw it on the forging table and said, "Later, beat it until it's only the size of an egg and as thin as a leaf, and then come find me. When Li Gan brings the coal over at night, you guys can use coal instead of charcoal. However, you have to make sure that the coal is red hot before you replace it. Raise the temperature of the flame as much as you can. Don't let the temperature of the flame fluctuate." After saying that, Zhang Feng no longer paid any attention to them. Arcanon was dumbfounded. Looking at the red-hot iron on the forging table, he was a little confused. Could this thing be hammered to that extent? However, since Zhang Feng said it, they had no choice but to do it. Moreover, Algernon was a madman. After hearing about Zhang Feng's forging method, he couldn't help but be eager to try it out. However, the fire. That was what attracted Algernon the most. At this time, as soon as Zhang Feng left, Mokito and the others couldn't help but come up and ask, "Old Algernon, what do you think about the problem of the flame's temperature? Also, is this forging method really effective?" Algernon smacked his lips. In fact, he also had doubts in his heart. "Well, I don't know if it will work or not, but if we can really master this kind of forging method, we can get rid of the slave status and also become famous in the Tang dynasty. Isn't this attractive to you, Mokito? Haven't you always wanted to come to the Tang dynasty? Now that you're here, if we can really make the thing that Zhang Feng said and he's willing to teach us, we can really become the people of the Tang dynasty." On the other side. In fact, Zhang Feng was lazy and asked Mokito to make a basketball. But now, it seemed that he had to do it himself. Looking around, Zhang Feng suddenly realized that he really couldn't find a quiet place. After thinking about it, he called Huali, who was waiting for work at the mountain gate, and pointed to the foot of the mountain. The two of them hurried down the mountain. The matter of the rubber. Zhang Feng had been preparing. However, after the bicycle was made last time, the rubber was basically given to Chintinu and the others to deal with. However, he still had a lump of rubber in his tavern. Now, the tavern seemed to be his last pure land. At 5:30 p.m., Zhang Feng and Ma Zhou returned to the tavern again. Looking at the model Duolai tavern, Zhang Feng had some indescribable emotions. This was the first time Ma Zhou came to the tavern. However, he had long heard of the legend of the tavern. At this time, seeing Zhang Feng's solemn expression, he didn't dare to make a sound. He followed Zhang Feng into the tavern. Naturally, the most attractive thing was the poem that looked like scribbles on the wall of the tavern. Ma Zhou squatted on the ground to study the poem. Zhang Feng ignored him and went straight to the backyard. He took out his set of smelting equipment, set up a furnace, and lit a charcoal fire. Then, he pulled out a black iron pot from the firewood pile in the corner of the courtyard. The iron pot was a normal pot, but the bottom of the pot was covered in a layer of dust. It looked like mud. This was what Zhang Feng needed at this time. Rubber. Chapter 860. In Zhang Feng's tavern, a wisp of smoke slowly rose. The remaining people in Tonghui Lane who were strolling on the streets also noticed it. For a while, the news of Zhang Feng's return spread like wildfire. Feng Zi is back. Zhang Feng returned to the tavern. Didn't you want your distant cousin and nephew to go to Feng Zi's academy? Feng Zi is back. What? What did you say? Zhang Feng, that brat is back. Let's go and have a look. On the other side, in Hengtong Private Bank, Qian Tong was fiddling with the beads on his abacus, calculating the accounts. The smile on his face never stopped. Some time ago, when he learned that he was going to go up the mountain to catch that unfilial son of his, Qian Wanli directly threw a stack of paper at his face. Qian Tong was stunned. He didn't even want to call him back. When Qian Tong knew that Zhang Feng had basically handed over the papermaking business to Qian Wanli, Qian Tong was so happy that he almost died. After that, Qian Wanli would go home every few days on the pretext of delivering paper to Chang'an. Every time he went home, although Qian Wanli would only leave a piece of paper, it was the kind of paper that had not been cut. This time, Qian Tong was overjoyed. 2 days after the 300,000 pigs went up the mountain, the braised meat and the paper broke out in Chang'an at the same time. However, the paper seemed to have disappeared without a trace. It couldn't be found in Chang'an. Subsequently, the price of this kind of paper soared in Chang'an city. Even in the black market, a piece of paper the size of a palm could be sold for more than 100,000 coins. By chance, someone found out that Qian Tong's son was the manager of the papermaking business and couldn't help but pester him. Qian Tong was also a powerful person. He immediately took out the big piece of paper. The asking price is 5,000 strings of cash, and the highest bidder wins. Then, under his astonished gaze, this piece of paper was actually pocketed by a third-rank official of the Ministry of Works for the last 17,000 strings of cash. Although Qian Wanli would still come back every time, the amount of paper he brought was getting lesser and lesser. What's more, a lot of it was what Qian Wanli called waste paper. What made Qian Tong even angrier was that his silly son actually wanted him to give him a receipt, then happily took a few dozen strings of money and went back home, saying that it was for the public account. But none of this mattered. The matter of Hangtong Bank having paper buy in it had made Qian Tong famous, and the business of his bank had also improved a lot. This made him smile so much that his teeth couldn't be contained. Master, something's wrong, something's wrong. While Qian Tong was happily fiddling with the beads on his abacus, a sharp voice that made him want to punch someone suddenly rang out. Qian Tong angrily grabbed the abacus and shouted, "Is your mother dead? Or is your father alive? This master said that when I'm settling accounts, no one is allowed to disturb me. Was your brain eaten by a dog?" When the servant heard this, he felt extremely wronged. He stammered, "Master, didn't you tell us to keep an eye on the Uli tavern?" Qian Tong was startled when he heard this, and when he thought about what the servant had shouted as soon as he came in, he hurriedly asked, "Tell me. What happened to the Uli tavern?" "The tavern. Prince Zhang seems to have returned. There are a lot of people outside the tavern. Go, prepare a sedan for old man, let's go to Tonghui Square." Qian Tong was overjoyed when he heard this. He was a businessman, and everything he did was for profit. At this time, his son was so highly regarded in White Deer College. Not only did he work in the paper mill during the day, but he also gave private lessons at night. One had to know that there were at least 2,000 students on this mountain. However, this President Zhang, Lord Zhang, actually valued his family's Qian Wanli so much. Qian Tong couldn't help but tighten his grip on the wooden box in his hand and sit in the sedan chair. He learned from his son that Zhang Feng didn't lack anything. He didn't like anything. But there was one thing. And that was that he liked to collect all kinds of rare treasures. This made him, who had always wanted to visit Zhang Feng and talk about paper and the braised meat business, unable to find a way to do so. Now that he knew that Zhang Feng was in the tavern, how could Qian Tong sit still? Along the way, even if the sedan bearers ran at full speed, Qian Tong still felt that they were too slow. On the other side, Wuxia Xianxia, who had nothing to do, was in a daze in Wuxia Estate's waterside pavilion when she happened to hear a group of soldiers talking in private. It was related to Zhang Feng. Wuxia Xianxia couldn't help but ask hurriedly, "Little brothers, were you talking about Prince Zhang on Shao Mountain just now?" Those who were able to serve as soldiers in the Wuxia Estate were all Wuxia Gong's loyal followers. As for the rumors about Wuxia Xianxia, how could they not know about it? They lowered their heads and didn't dare to look at Wuxia Xianxia. "Miss, someone outside the estate just heard that Prince Zhang returned to the tavern." Hearing this, the sadness on Wuxia Xianxia's face was swept away. She hurriedly lifted the hem of her skirt and was about to run out of the door. Seeing this, the soldiers turned pale with fright and hurriedly stopped Wuxia, saying, "Miss, the patriarch ordered. Your patriarch is my brother. My brother didn't allow me to go up the mountain, but it doesn't mean that I can't go to Jianghu and city, right?" When the soldiers heard this, their foreheads were instantly covered in cold sweat. "Miss, we are just following orders. Please, get out of my way. The emperor and the retired emperor have acquiesced. Who do you think you are? If you dare to stop me again, believe it or not, I will tell my cousin that you bullied me." They couldn't help but panic. Chapter 861. Inside the tavern. The smell of rubber came from the smelting furnace. The smell made Zhang Feng cough incessantly. In the end, after weighing his own weight, he could only give up. After going out, he turned right and found Niu Pai Huang, who made cowhide. After giving him 3 coins, Niu Pai Huang's mouth, which was full of missing teeth, grinned as if he wanted to swallow Zhang Feng whole. After promising to provide food and wine, Niu Pai Huang happily ran out of the tavern with a pot of smelly black stuff under the envious eyes of the crowd. As for the people at the door, now Zhang Feng was too lazy to pay attention to them. However, this was not important. After Zhang Feng did this, the women in the crowd instantly burst into a burst of exclamations that belonged only to idiots. They had seen too many. Zhang Feng was naturally too lazy to pay attention to them. He could not be like an idiot every day and be happy with everyone, right? Walking back to the tavern, Zhang Feng lazily lay on the recliner covered with a sheepskin blanket and closed his eyes. However, from time to time, Ma Zhou's mouth would jump out of his mouth, which made Zhang Feng open his eyes again. He glanced at Ma Zhou, who wanted to crawl into the wall. Zhang Feng then asked, "Ma Zhou, come here." "Teacher, you rest. I'll take a look again. Previously, I only heard Qing Tiniu and the people of Tonghui Square boasting that your tavern was amazing. Now that I've seen it, I'm very happy." "You're happy, but Lao Tzu is miserable. Can you not make weird sounds?" Zhang Feng was too lazy to care. Some people, when seeing something, would naturally make some greedy sounds. For example, when a pervert saw a beautiful woman. This was the case. There was no rest. Zhang Feng could only lie on the recliner and close his eyes, carefully thinking about the future development of the academy and his future. At this time, Zhang Feng really couldn't afford to raise the chickens, ducks, and pigs on the mountain. The entire desolate mountain was now filled with the smell of pig dung and chicken and duck dung. Zhang Feng was also doing his best to prevent the locusts from going down the path of starvation. Instead, it allowed them to benefit others in a more glorious way. The beggar's chicken, beggar's duck, and other fresh ways of eating were the last sublimation and sacrifice for these chickens and ducks. At least in the future, no matter how much time had passed, as long as people thought about it, they would be able to remember that these chickens and ducks were the great heroes of eliminating locusts during the 2nd year of Zhongguan. This was their final sublimation and glory. As for those pigs, at first it was because they really couldn't afford to raise it. Who could afford to raise this thing in such a disaster year? But since Zhang Feng invented the braised meat and sent it to Jianghu and city, it really became popular for a while, and the reputation of pork was unparalleled. However, Zhang Feng knew that when people got tired of eating and vomited, it would be terrible. After all, in Jianghu and city, there were only a limited number of people who could afford to buy and exchange food for meat. Even in all the prefectures, Laoli seemed to have open branches at this time. However, even so, ordinary people still couldn't afford it. Every day, the braised meat factory on Shao Mountain was still sending food to Jianghu, and in an orderly manner. Even though the common ingredients were used to help the poor people waiting at the city gate all day long, it didn't help. The sallow and emaciated people were used to living a poor life. However, this sudden meal of meat made many people vomit and have diarrhea. Even so, there was still a touch of happiness and excitement on their dirty faces that could not be concealed. This was simply something they could brag about for the rest of their lives. "Today, I still have meat to eat in such a famine year. Do you believe it? And it's free. And Zhang Feng also chose to retire when the braised meat business was flourishing. It was because these things would sooner or later reach their current peak and fall down. Therefore, Zhang Feng hurriedly scattered all the pig beasts today. He couldn't afford to raise them. More importantly, it was better to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish. This was an immutable truth. How could Zhang Feng not know? Fengzi, Fengzi. Someone is coming, so many people are coming. Just when Zhang Feng was thinking about when to make basketball into an industry, a cry of surprise made Zhang Feng jump from the reclining chair. What's the matter? What's the matter? The person who came was the simple and honest son of the old village head. Before Zhang Feng had time to ask, he saw a sedan chair slowly squeezing through the crowd outside the tavern and landing in front of Zhang Feng's tavern. When the crowd saw the sedan chairs, they couldn't help but make way for them. Ma Zhou also gave up the idea of climbing the wall and went to the entrance of the tavern to welcome the guests. After all, he still had this awareness. The first sedan chair looked familiar to Zhang Feng. It seemed to be the sedan chair of the Chang'an county government. As expected, when the sedan chair landed, County Magistrate Niu, who was wearing a green robe and holding a big gift box, happily saluted the surrounding officials and people. When the crowd saw that it was actually the county magistrate, they couldn't help but be even more surprised. The moment they entered the tavern, County Magistrate Niu laughed and said, "Brother Zhang, when I heard that you were back, I immediately rushed over. It seems that you've been living a good life on the mountain recently." Chapter 862. Zhang Feng was also a little surprised. In his memory, this guy was not someone to be trifled with. Why is he here? Zhang Feng calmly made an obeisance and stepped forward, saying, "Lord Niu, what brings you here? Come, come, come. Please come in. Ma Zhou, go and make some tea." Seeing Zhang Feng so polite, Lord Niu was also surprised. He hurriedly bowed and sat down with Zhang Feng. After Zhang Feng sat down, Lord Niu hurriedly handed the gift box in his hand to Zhang Feng and said, "The purchase of land last time was purely a misunderstanding. Brother, please don't take it to heart. Is it because of this?" Zhang Feng suspiciously glanced at the yellow paper box on the table and could not help but feel more confused. There must be a reason for this abnormality. Zhang Feng could not help asking, "Lord Niu, what brings you here today?" Hearing this, Niu Weili knew that Zhang Feng was a little impatient. He laughed and did not say anything. Instead, he opened the gift box on the table and said while opening it, "Brother, I know Prince Zhang is a magnanimous person. We did have a misunderstanding before, but I believe Prince Zhang will not take it to heart. I've been thinking about giving you a gift, but I was too busy and couldn't go to Mount Shao. Seeing you benefiting the people on Mount Shao, I'm very moved. I heard that Prince Zhang likes to collect rare treasures in the world. Coincidentally, some time ago, my relatives in my hometown got a strange thing from a merchant in the western regions. So I brought it here to show you." While speaking, Niu Weili slowly opened the paper box, revealing a few things that looked like lumps of earth. Zhang Feng did not notice it at first. Niu Weili was just a county magistrate of Chang'an. What good things could he have? But after seeing it, Zhang Feng almost stood up and called him a fellow countryman. However, Zhang Feng's rationality still allowed him to forcefully stabilize his expression. After all, this fellow had come to him with this toy. He definitely had something to ask of him. Zhang Feng glanced at the dirt balls without batting an eyelid. He casually picked one up and asked curiously, "What is this dirt ball?" Niu Weili caught Zhang Feng's attention. He was a little excited. "Prince Zhang, I don't know where this thing came from for the time being. I only know that when a merchant from the western regions was selling the specialties of Shiyu, he mixed it with the local specialties. In the end, an angry merchant in Chang'an reported it to me. I learned that Prince Zhang likes to collect such strange things during this period, so I bought this thing. Don't worry, I've already gotten the agreement of the merchants from the western regions and the Tang dynasty to buy this item at the same price." Although Niu Weili did not know Zhang Feng's status, the secret order from his superior that night made Niu Weili dare not treat Zhang Feng as an ordinary person. Besides, Zhang Feng was still a viscount now. Although he had not been formally in theft, the Shao Mountain had been awarded to him. The title of Viscount of Shao Mountain was not far away. Besides, regardless of this identity, the Chancellor and Dean of Cheng and University and White Deer College, as well as the title of a Great Confucian jointly recommended by the 4 Great Confucian scholars, was not someone Niu Weili could afford to offend now. Therefore, Niu Weili deliberately emphasized the word by. Hearing this, Zhang Feng calmly put the dirt ball on the table, lit a cigarette for Niu Weili, and poured a cup of tea for Niu Weili from the teapot brought by Ma Zhou. Then he said, Master Niu, Brother Niu, I've never seen this thing before. I like such a magical thing very much. Here's a bill. Take it as I bought it. Niu Weili was not happy. With a straight face, he said angrily, Prince Zhang, are you treating me as an outsider? This thing is not a good thing. I spent 10 coins to buy it. The merchant from the western regions was so happy that he could not even close his mouth. Are you giving me this thing because you want to reward me? Niu Weili did not even look at the bill handed by Zhang Feng and said angrily. Seeing this, Zhang Feng laughed and said, That's good. Thank you so much, brother. What are you thanking me for? Originally, Prince Zhang opened the Cheng, an academy in Cheng, and to benefit the people of Cheng, and he also helped the disaster victims in Shao Mountain. If it were not for Prince Zhang, maybe I would not be an official now. The guy on my head would have moved away long ago. After saying this, Niu Weili was about to get up and leave. Zhang Feng hurriedly pulled him to sit down. Since Brother Niu values friendship so much, if I refuse, then I, Zhang Feng, am in the wrong. Since there's no such thing, then I'll accept it. Seeing this, Niu Weili sat down with a smile, smoking and drinking tea. By the way, brother, is there anything else you need this time? If there's anything I can help with, brother, just tell me. I'll definitely do it for you. This was the main point. Niu Weili came to give something for no reason. Zhang Feng would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. Hearing this, Niu Weili sighed with a bitter face, alas. This is all because I'm not capable. Prince Zhang, you have to help me. Chapter 863. Zhang Feng knew that Niu Weili was up to no good. But looking at the dirt on the table, Zhang Feng suppressed his impatience and said, Brother Niu, don't worry. If there's anything I can help you with, I'll help you. Just tell me. Niu Weili stopped crying when he saw that. After all, he had been holding it in for a long time and did not squeeze out a single tear. Therefore, he decided not to hold back and hurriedly said, Cheng and city was not affected by the previous famine. Now, nothing has been mentioned. The monthly tax task is still on the table. You've seen Cheng and city. Although it's bustling, only a few people can afford it. What's more, once the Shao Mountain market was opened, the number of people in the 2 big markets in Cheng and city has decreased by more than half. Let's get down to business. Zhang Feng did not want to listen to him and quickly interrupted him. Now, Zhang Feng would get a headache whenever he listened to someone's nagging and stories. There were a few times when old Li's nagging got him into trouble. He was afraid of being tricked. Seeing that, Niu Weili also smacked his lips and said, I heard that Prince Zhang has a paper mill on Shao Mountain. And now, the braised meat all over Cheng and city is also from the food factory on Shao Mountain? Yes. But if you want to use these two to stabilize the market, I advise you to give up. After all, these things are not under my control now. I'll give you an idea. You wait at the city gate. When you see Li Qian and the others, you can discuss it with him. I've entrusted this matter to him. As long as he is willing, I don't mind. Hearing that, Niu Weili's eyes lit up and he said in surprise, So, Prince Zhang has agreed? Zhang Feng nodded. However, let me say this first. I only have 10% of the profits, so the braised meat is still fine. When the time comes, you can discuss it with old he and the rest. If the authorities step in, I will have less manpower and resources to distribute the braised meat. As for the paper mill's white paper business, you still have to talk to Li Qianhan. What I promised is what I promised. As long as you agree, isn't it a done deal? Niu Weili was ecstatic. Ma Zhou, who was standing by the side, could not bear to watch any longer. He frowned slightly and wanted to say something. This was something that even a fool could see. This damned Niu Weili wanted to take advantage of the situation to fish for benefits. Why did Master agree? How was he behaving like a parental official? How was this still the wise and far-sighted dean? Ma Zhou didn't understand, but it didn't matter. After chatting with Zhang Feng for a while, Niu Weili rubbed his hands and said, "It's getting late, so I won't bother you anymore. Another day, I'll treat Prince Zhang to a meal." "All right." Zhang Feng nodded and got up to see him off. When he saw Niu Weili off at the door, Zhang Feng asked casually, "Brother Niu, if you meet that merchant from the western regions in the future, if he still has this thing, can I trouble you to leave it for me?" When Niu Weili heard this, he said with some difficulty, "Brother Dissatisfaction, I asked about this matter." The merchant said that he encountered a broken ship at sea, and he picked it up from a broken bag on the ship, so, Zhang Feng was a little disappointed when he heard this. "Then, thank you, brother. If you meet this kind of rare thing in the future, you must remember me." "Okay. That's all I need to hear. I'll pay more attention in the future." After seeing Niu Weili off, Ma Zhou was a little puzzled and asked, "Master, this thing, shu." "I'll tell you later. This is a big treasure." Zhang Feng didn't expect that he could meet this thing so early. The reason why Zhang Feng waited until the end to ask was that all the people who could be county magistrates under the emperor's rule were very powerful. If you didn't give him some benefits, would he be so loyal to you? The western regions. The broken ship. Zhang Feng thought carefully for a long time, but he still couldn't figure out the origin of this thing. However, one thing was certain. This thing was the only one in the Tang dynasty. As for whether there was such a thing outside, Zhang Feng didn't know. If Niu Weili and that merchant from the western regions didn't lie, this thing really didn't exist in other places in this era except for Peru, which was far away on the other side of the ocean. Did this broken ship come from there? Zhang Feng couldn't help but fall into a wild imagination. At this moment, after Niu Weili left, another person with a capable figure, who looked like a merchant wearing a beige robe, walked into the tavern with a smile while carrying a gift box. As soon as he entered, he bowed and said, "I presume this young master is the Dean of White Deer College, Prince Zhang, Lord Jianghu." Seeing Zhang Feng holding the lump of mud in a daze, Ma Zhou continued, "Master, it is indeed Lord Jianghu. May I know who you are? It's Prince Zhang. This humble one's surname is Qian." "Little brother, do you know Qian Wanli?" Ma Zhou was stunned. "Are you talking about Qian Wanli, young Master Qian?" The person who came was Qian Wanli. Seeing that Ma Zhou knew him, he hurriedly said, yes, that's him. This old man is Qian Wanli's father."